Manhwa could not hide his happiness while walking for making Duan Lion look like a complete fool after he tricked him. Suddenly, his phone rings. Brother Bo texted him saying that he has to come to the hospital for a while because he has something important to tell him. And just like that, Manhwa's free time is gone. In the agricultural department, Manhwa noticed something. He then went to check at the plant general store where a lot of strange-looking foods are sold. Manhwa even saw the new product, the surprise fruit basket, which was being sold with a 50% discount. He finds the deal fine and so he decided to buy it. He then went straight to the agricultural affiliated hospital after buying from the store. He searched for the room where Gu Jianbo was in. Luckily, he found his room fast. While looking at the door to check if the room was correct, someone grabbed him from his back and asked him what was he doing. It was him, Brother Bo. He then asked Manhwa why was he acting so sneaky like that. But instead of answering his question, Manhwa decided to tell him that he is sure that Teacher Lai is amazing, which causes Brother Bo to feel a bit uneasy. After teasing Brother Bo, Manhwa gave the strange-looking foods he brought from the store earlier. There were blue apples, purple watermelon, and some bananas with some kind of short curly vines that surrounds its body. Out of all the food in the basket, there is one that looks normal. The orange. He then picked it out of the basket, but all of a sudden, the orange bit his hand before he even touches it. Brother Bo screamed and complained about the orange who bit him. Manhwa, on the other hand, could not hold out his laughter. Then he explained that those are products made by the plant course. Even if they are weird, they are still nutritious, he added. Brother Bo suddenly became serious and asked Manhwa to stop that nonsense, and told him also that he surely knows how to create trouble. However, Manhwa did not agree with him. He told him that he has been cultivating, experimenting, learning, and sparing all this time, and so he has no time to cause any trouble. Brother Bo then told Manhwa about the Tamer course and the martial arts course, as well as his plan of beating 10 of the martial art and Tamer course students. Manhwa just smiled over it and did not even try to deny any. Brother Bo also told him that he bullied the Tamer course and made the freshmen depressed. Then he made their secret weapon, Woo-Woo, into that state. He was bothered by the fact that he could not save him anymore if ever 100 of them will try to beat him up. But Manhwa told Brother Bo that he could just run away if that happens. He explained that limit type flow is originally created to run away. If he wants to run, no one can stop him. Brother Bo told him that he is confident with the limit type flow if he wants to promote it, but it might touch the interest of many others, and so he must not act too hastily. He also told him about the saying that when a tree is too beautiful in the forest, the wind will destroy it. Manhwa sighed after hearing it. He then recalled the fall of Senior Zhongyi, which happened 10 years ago. He questioned Brother Bo if they really have to wait for years to let those people blinded by greed accept them. Manhwa believes that the path they are on is the only right path. If they will use all their courage and power and break all difficult, they can promote the limit type flow. That way, they will not disrespect and waste the sacrifices made by those people for the limit type flow. After hearing what Manhwa has to say, Brother Bo could not decide whether he will praise his smartness or scold his stupidity. He then told Manhwa that what happened between him and Woo-Woo actually made the principal of the Tamer course talk with their martial art course principal for half a day. However, Manhwa is confident that he would not be in trouble because he believes and trusts that their principal will support the limit type flow. On the other hand, Brother Bo still thinks that Manhwa might be daydreaming still because of his arrogance over that matter. While Brother Bo was scolding him, Manhwa thinks about how the past agricultural academy relied on the limit type flow to rise, but he cannot tell him this. After all, Manhwa believes in Principal Zong's vision to let the Dragon City become stronger and let the Earth's civilization spread in the world, and with that, he is sure that he will support him. Brother Bo then asked him to go inside the room and tell everything he just said to Principal Zong himself because he has been waiting for him, actually. Manhwa froze after discovering that the principal was there. Also, he already said what he said so loudly that he must have heard all that, didn't he? While Manhwa was whining, Brother Bo turned the doorknob to open it. He then called the principal and told him that Manhwa wanted to say something to him. Manhwa tried to calm himself down before entering the room. Principal Zong immediately invited Manhwa to have a seat and watch TV, for he has been running around the school for half a day. As he entered the room, Manhwa is seated on a chair with both his hands on his legs as if to show that he is a well-behaved person. The principal showed him something on the television and asked him if he also thinks that those people looks dumb. That is the tactic of the invention of firearms in the Earth era, the line of infantry tactic, also known as queue up and shoot. Having them relied on that dumb tactics, they still managed to defeat the old traditional army and took down the entire kingdom. Manhwa knows that Dragon City relies on super killer flow, and Beast's soul flows and hangs on for over 50 years. It's like his line infantry tactic propping up a powerful kingdom. But after innovating the weapon, the powerful kingdom paid a huge price and then carried out the new tactic which slowly replaced the old queue up and shoot tactic. Manhwa also knew that they cannot suffer such a price and can't wait until it happens. The principal realized that is why he rushed and challenged the students then. He also commended Manhwa's confidence in this matter. Manhwa then made it clear to the principal that the only goal of the limit type flow is the Dragon University martial art course. However, the principal thinks that he was just being so boastful about his goal. His results only prove that he is a special genius, and he is even better than Wu Wu. But still, he can't show the advantage of the limit type flow. His results also can't prove that those who are 2 stars, 3 stars Sky Realm, or God Realm experts can have the same performance. The principal also explained that in the wild, he needs to fight against ferocious beasts, then it will be the best proof for the limit type flow. Then he asked Manhwa if he understand what he was trying to tell him. Manhwa confirmed that he understood, and then he asked the principal why he agreed to have him fight to the front line in the north. The principal told him that it is good that he has the confidence, but he must remember that when the God Realm experts grasp the profound meaning of life, it's the true profound meaning of martial art he can't grasp. He also reminded Manhwa that if he wants the limit type flow to exceed the killer flow, then he has to face them one day, and it will be harder to reach the space. Manhwa knew that Earthlings have already proven that they successfully reached space before, and so he believes that this day isn't far away that the Dragon City will, too. Because of what Mangchap said, the principal burst into laughter, saying that it has been years since he met a student like him. Because of that, Principal Zong decided to let Manhwa witness the beyond top-notch power and show him how it looks. Manhwa could not believe what he was seeing in front of him at that moment. A black turtle. It is towering over him and also shows a great power as it stood. Manhwa thinks that it is just an illusion, however, he could not wake up at all. As he looks at the black turtle, he noticed that it lifted 1 foot up over him. Then the black turtle put its foot on Manhwa's back. It was so powerful, but Manhwa tried to endure its weight. He then tried to put the foot out of his back since it feels real at that moment. He also told him that he will also destroy it during the real apocalypse and show him. He then unleashed his full strength in order to get rid of the black turtle, activating his main vessels. Then the black turtle completely became shattered into pieces. After that, Manhwa felt so exhausted that he just lay on the ground. The principal commended Manhwa's bravery in attacking his beast's soul, which he cultivated and extracted from an 8-rank apocalypse murderer. Actually, he was just imprinting part of it into Manhwa's brain in order for him to be able to perceive its presence by just entering a meditation state. The principal will use the black turtle beast's soul to test him, and if he passes the test, then he will grant him the support that he wanted to get. Manhwa wondered, how is that even a test when it's just letting him cultivate better? As expected, because of Senior Zhang Yi, the Principal Zhang will support the limit type flow, he thinks. Manhwa called the principal once more before he left the room. The principal stopped, and then he told Manhwa that he should not be mistaken that he helped him because of Zhang Yi. However, standing on the peak of Beast Soul Flow, he can see more clearly than anyone else. That Beast Soul Flow has reached the end. There is nothing in front but a dead end without a path. Finally, he told Manhwa that he hopes the limit type flow can barge open a new path. Then he gave Manhwa good luck and asked him to defeat him and all the enemies that are stopping in front of the Dragon City and preventing them from becoming better. Manhwa felt more courageous and confident than he already is after hearing those words from Principal Zhang. When Brother Bo and Manhwa met again, Brother Bo told him that he was just so lucky. It has been 10 years since Principal Zhang personally has thought of any student. He also told Manhwa that this time, he will surely be corrected, as he showed him a purple banana with some hairs around its body. Manhwa then told Brother Bo that he doesn't have to worry about him because he will perform well in the north front line in order to keep him and Principal Zhang from disappointment. However, Brother Bo reminds him that he still needs to get his qualification first at the field plaza in order to promote the limit type flow, as Teacher Lai told him. Manhwa answered that he was just using the rules reasonably and winning the wisdom. Rules that were set by you, Brother Bo told him. However, the last qualification's right is in the hands of Teacher Lai. Manhwa became frozen for a moment, and then he suddenly moved quickly as if he was planning to do something that might cause trouble again. He then told Brother Bo that he will finish the unfinished fight, and will also destroy Duan Lion and the others. That night at the agricultural martial art course, Duan Lion was sleeping in a single-person luxury dormitory room. All of a sudden, his phone rang. His face turns into a frown after hearing the sound that disturbed him while asleep. He answered the call and yelled at the caller, saying that he must start talking now if he has anything to tell him. The caller answered, He advised Duan Lion to be careful because Kuijia and the Zhao family brothers and those who challenged Meng Kao have been sent to the hospital. After ending the call, he noticed that his body is still sore and his head hurt even though he finished recovering his energy. He also noticed the weird smell in there. He immediately put on his uniform and prepared himself to go someplace with many people. Meng Kao is despicable, so it is not a good idea to stay alone because he might attack at any moment. All of a sudden he felt something on his feet. Sharp objects pierced into his feet when he put on his shoes. He thinks it was Meng Kao who placed those sharp objects inside his shoes. Because of that, he thinks that he has to call people to come and save him. He then reached out to get his phone, but someone told him that he cannot do it. The person was behind him. It was Meng Kao dressed like an assassin. He even aimed a knife at Duan Lion's neck as he told him that he already won. However, Duan Lion told him that it should not be counted as a profound meaning of limit-type flow. But Meng Kao disagreed with him, telling him that it is, indeed, the profound meaning of limit-type flow. With the 1024 support vessels, Meng Kao managed to sneak into 6 people's rooms without a sound and defeated one. Because of his muscle and nerves' perfect control, he climbed up to the 9th floor, entered a small window ending up in a bathroom where a man was taking a bath. The man did not notice him. Then he struck him from the back, knocking him out before he even noticed that Meng Kao was there. The war has changed, he told Duan Lion. In the past war, they could obtain time to rest and supplies anytime. The sound and light effect of that killer move was effective and increased miracles. It was all worth it. But in future wars, they might fight alone. Enemies will not care about what you are doing when they attack. Meng Kao knew that he and Duan Lion had some misunderstandings at the start of the academy when he failed because of him and when he did not get an ace instructor's guide. However, he must believe him in order to win. He told him that he has no bad intentions, and as redemption, he asked Duan Lion to be his friend and he will teach him the limit-type flow. But despite all Meng Kao said, Duan Lion just told him to stop daydreaming and that he will destroy him and his limit-type flow. With Duan Liam still not believing him, he thought that he was such troublesome. With that, Meng Kao has no other choice then. He then quickly slit the knife he has been holding. And then after that, blood scattered all over the room. Duan Lion's eyes widened as he sees the blood scattering. He then told Meng Kao that he had gone completely crazy. Meng Kao even asked Duan Lion why he must die. He thinks he must die because he is such a narrow-minded person. It has been 2 months since the freshman test and yet, he still holds a grudge against him. Meng Kao wipes the knife covered with blood with a white cloth while telling Duan Lion that he actually thought that time will let them clear up the grudge. But since he doesn't change, he now has to kill him since he is a lunatic who might one day attack him from his back. And Meng Kao thinks he won't be able to predict him, so he might as well just end him now. He said all these to Duan Lion while he was lying on the bed, so scared for his life. He started to get sweaty out of fear, and then he wondered how Meng Kao will kill for something like that. After a few moments, Meng Kao remembered something. He wants to give Duan Lion a reminder. Then in the next life, when he stretches his hands, it is better if he will just smile and ask him to be his friend. He should grab it next time. Duan Lion shouted for help while the slit on his neck is still gushing out of blood. His helpless voice echoes around the building. His eyes widened even more than it was earlier. Finally, he asked Meng Kao to save him and admitted that he was wrong. He also promised him that he won't provoke him ever again. After that he felt different. He thought that that is how it feels before dying. A few moments passed and yet Duan Lion was still able to open his eyes. He is still alive even though he already lost a lot of blood. Also, he felt that his limbs recovered some energy. He then sit up from the bed where he was lying. Meanwhile, Meng Kao suddenly turned the light on in the room. Then he said sorry to Duan Lion and asked him if he would mind if he tells him that it was all just a joke because it is. Duan Lion then realized that the skin Meng Kao slit with the knife was just a fake. Everything was fake, even the nearing death was just caused by perception medicine. Meng Kao explained that they were still classmates and asked if he really thinks that he could do that to him. Now that everything is clear, Meng Kao believes that the matter about the freshman test will be over from now on. After that, Meng Kao offered friendship again to Duan Lion as redemption. He also promises to teach him the limit-type flow. Will Duan Lion accept the offer now? At the agricultural martial art course office, a few students gathered to see Teacher Lai. Teacher Lai could not keep a straight face as she sees the exhausted faces of the students. The students went to her office just to tell her that the battle against Meng Kao was over and they all lost because he was just too strong. All of a sudden, Duan Lion barged in and asked Teacher Lai to make Meng Kao the representative of the agricultural martial art course. He was supposed to tell another thing, but he noticed that Meng Kao was outside the office observing everything that he does, and so he changed what he was about to say and tell another, a good one. He then told Teacher Lai to make those monsters have a taste of Meng Kao's wisdom. Teacher Lai got confused by how Duan Lion behaved that day. Meng Kao was happy that he successfully got qualified and he even got 3 days worth of holidays. There is a lot of food on the table. Certainly, anyone would eat more seeing how appealing the foods are. Meng Kao's mother offered him a bowl full of rice even though he had already eaten a lot. She told him that it has been a few months since she last saw him and he got so skinny. Unlike her mother, his sister thinks that her brother became even fatter as she devoured her food. His father asked him to share something about his school life and if he got any friends. He then told him that he is quite popular so everyone wanted to be his friend. However, his sister told their father that he was just boasting only. Because of that, Meng Kao told her sister that it has been 2 months and she dared to talk back to him just like that while he was tingling her. Because Meng Kao and his sister were quarreling again. Their parents became happier because they felt like their house started to get lively once again. However, their happiness immediately turned to worry after the two siblings started being too mean to each other. And because of that, their mother commanded them to settle their fight and get back to eating their food in their respective seats. She then put another piece of food in Meng Kao's bowl despite the fact that it was already full. She also told him that his sister did great at school, and she's even stronger than him. Because of that, Meng Kao's sister started to boast that her school is full of weaklings and that there is no male there who can beat her. She also said that she needs to eat more because she is still growing. Having said that, her dad also has to keep on cooking a lot of meat every day for her. After what she said, everyone thinks that she was so cringe. To cut the awkwardness, Meng Kao's father just asked him how did he get 3 days of earlier vacation. Meng Kao then explained to his father that he actually won the qualification to represent the school, that is why. All of a sudden, his mother got worried about the fact that her son has to go to the front line even if he is just a freshman. She then added a huge piece of chicken to Meng Kao's bowl while asking why he only remembers to eat and not remember that he got injured. Meng Kao explained to her that that were two different things. The last time was an accident. 100 dumb and weak high school students facing hundreds of blood moon demon wolf? Definitely. It's dangerous. This time it will be different. The North frontline attack scale is huge. In addition, the Red Dragon Army sent many elite teams and Super Being Tower also has sent 10 God Realm experts. And it is not only the Agricultural University and Dragon University that will participate, a lot of universities, too. Everyone will go to the battlefield to fight and defend. With the torrent of human steel, there will be no monster who can stop their steps. The plan is while moving with the team, Meng Kao will cultivate techniques and gain new knowledge. He can even earn cultivation resources and gain connections. After all that has been said, his mother was still hesitant about the idea of her son going on the battlefield. She then asked her son if he can't just wait for 2 more years after graduating from the university before fighting along. That will be safer and better, she said. But his sister told their mother that it will not happen because they will certainly open up today. She then suggests to her mother that if she wants to blame someone, she can then blame her brother for going to the Agricultural University. She clears her throat before explaining why she said that. 20 or 30 years ago, agricultural old Principal Jin Zhenglin invented many new techniques. The 3-dimensional farm technique developed by the agricultural has completed the honeycomb and can even perfectly meet the needs of hundreds of millions of people. No more survival crisis, and so they will need a better life, better job, and larger space, and the most simple way to achieve that is to open the outside or to build a new era. She then told her mother to stop complaining because this is a sign of Dragon City becoming better. In 2 years' time, she will also participate herself in the front line. With that, Meng Kao thinks that maybe it was because of Xiao Kao's inner darkness witch bloodline. Suddenly, Xiao Kao asked them all why are they staring at her as if she did something wrong. Her mother then tried to comfort her saying that she is so amazing and she knows many things that she herself has no idea at all. Her father also added that after Meng Kao's little sister studied at year 3 in high school, her knowledge has grown and is like an adult now, which made her feel prouder of herself. Xiao Kao then started to act so humbly, saying that she just inherited her mother's wisdom. However, her mother doesn't even know that she does. Xiao Kao left them all for a moment because she will go get the evidence. Their mother then told Meng Kao that his sister is like an adult now but can't take praise as his father did. Xiao Kao gets back with a dusty box after a few moments. She told her mother that found it in the corner partition of her bed when she went for treatment. And then she also asked her if she had forgotten already that she put those things there. As soon as Meng Kao sees the box, he immediately suspected that it has something to do or it is somehow related to the darkness witch. When she opened the box, they discovered that it contains things like an old letter, a watch, and other pieces of stuff. Turns out, it was actually the first birthday gift Xiao Kao's father gave her. Her mother also told her that she was actually looking for it. She has no idea that it was in there all this time. Xiao Kao's father blushed after hearing and discovering what his wife did to his first birthday gift to her. Xiao Cao then realized that all those letters are actually letters that her father wrote for her mother, which made their father a little worried. He then immediately grabbed the letter from Xiao Cao to stop her from reading the letters he once sent to their mother. However, she told her father that it was too late, for she already read those letters before. She never thought that her father was so romantic when he was young, she added. Manhwa also started to tease their father by asking them to stop hiding the letters from him and let him see them. Because of that, their father kept the letters safe and away from his children as he asked them to stop daydreaming. Xiao Cao also told Manhwa that she is their father's cute daughter, and that is why she would never betray him even if he offered her 1,000 yuan, expecting that he might offer more. Their mother then told Xiao Cao to stop playing around and just show her the evidence that she talking about earlier. But before showing her the evidence, Xiao Cao teased her mother too, saying that she only know how to care for her dad. Then she presented a notebook as her evidence. However, her mother doesn't remember that she had a notebook like that. She wasn't familiar with the notebook. When they look at the notebook, they discovered that it contains questions requiring a zero-gravity environment, the function of the fine-tuning force formula, and other stuff. Their mother was so clueless about what they are saying. Clearly, she has no idea about the contents of that notebook. Xiao Cao then explained that the notebook contains questions about how martial arts are applied to the universe environment. Although Dragon City still has no ability to send people into the universe, the notebook is still very helpful. Actually, they think that it is top-notch martial art research. Manhwa also discovered that there is a model of spiritual energy conduction drawn there that seems to be some kind of activation device used to detonate something. Their parents were so shocked by what they were saying. Everything was fine, but not until Manhwa discovered a familiar sign drawn on the notebook. Eventually, his head started to hurt and his vision was slowly becoming blurry. After that, he had a vision of his sister in the form of the darkness witch who called him brother. She was lifting Manhwa by his neck above the ground, who was bleeding at that very moment. She then told Manhwa to get lost from her sight as far as he could. And there, he discovered that the mark drawn on the notebook was actually marked on the witch's hand. The witch then warned Manhwa that if she happens to see him once again, it will be the end for him. At that moment, he realizes everything. It was that picture, he said as he woke up lying on the floor and while his nose was bleeding. Xiao Cao asked Manhwa why he suddenly fell down to the ground and got a nosebleed, which really scared their parents. She also asked him if he visited some dirty sites again while they were not around. Manhwa then explained that those were not dirty sites but were all life science forums. Xiao Cao then ran away from Manhwa after he flicked her on the head, saying that she will one day get her revenge when she grow up. After some time, she urged her brother to hurry because he might miss the bus again if he did not. Manhwa then ran towards her after throwing the garbage into the trash bins. He thought to himself that even though the darkness witch's problem seems complicated, he still have to solve it, for she is her sister. Yesterday, Manhwa had a very long chat with his mother, but because things are from way back, she can't remember much. All that had been known is that it seems to be pointing at the mysterious hospital from 20 years ago. His mother worked at that hospital before, and there, she began to have knowledge about generational knowledge. But it has been closed long ago because of the non-stop invasion of the beasts and Dragon City's integration of medical resources. That means Dragon City's enemies aren't just beasts. The team has arrived at the Super Being Tower station. The passengers who are about to get off were asked to bring their belongings with them as they go and to pay attention to safety. Lu Hai immediately invited Manhwa to come with him, and he has something to show him. He then brought 2 long boxes and placed them on the table. Manhwa asked him what are those. He explained to Manhwa that those are new types of swords based on 100 swordsmanship enhanced editions as he slowly opened the boxes. It was called the Rush Thunder Sword, Youth Edition. It is expected to be launched in the market soon. There will be 4 types to choose from. There is Moonlight Silver, Volcanic Ash, Scarlet Red, and Starry Black. He adds that he can even use laser printing to print text and patterns on the blade scabbard and handle. There is even a promotional poster that says from now on, killing beasts is much simpler than drinking coffee. Lu Hai continued to advertise the sword to Manhwa by telling him all the good stuff he could get from using the sword. Eventually, Manhwa stopped Lu Hai in the middle of speaking. He already knows that the sword is good, but he asked Lu Hai what was he trying to tell him really. Lu Hai hesitated for a moment, and then thinks of a better way to say it. That is why Manhwa told him to just say it. In that case, Lu Hai chose to be straightforward. He then told Manhwa that he needs him to use the Rush Thunder Sword in frontline battle. They will let a professional team film the battle into video, which will be used as a promotional video for the Rush Thunder Sword. The plan is to make Manhwa the main character of a documentary, and make him as popular as he could. During then, selling swords will be something easy. Manhwa already imagined himself doing things in order to promote the sword, but he feels like it is not giving. He just felt awkward at the thought of it. Lu Hai then explained to him that he is a role model and an idol in people's eyes, and the main users of the sword will be the normal public. That means he is truly fit to be the main character. Because of that, Manhwa agreed, saying that it was reasonable. The poor boy who fought against the son of Lu Wu with the Rush Thunder sword, he defeated the noble young master. He told Lu Hai that if he really want a film, why not use that as an opening? Lu Hai immediately agreed and suggested that he will be the young noble master. He wanted to see how much the monster has grown. Lu Hai and Manhwa proceeded with their fight. Manhwa lunges from the ground and smashed Lu Hai with the Rush Thunder sword. Again, Manhwa interrupted Lu Hai and made him unable to build a spirit magnetic field. He then wonders what technique was he using. Manhwa teased him by not answering Lu Hai's question and urging him to guess it instead. Manhwa strike again using the Rush Thunder sword, and Lu Hai successfully stopped him using his sword. This time Lu Hai takes his turn to strike, as he told Manhwa that it must be the limit type flow that he and the others have researched recently. However, it is known that even if he knew what technique he was using, he still cannot win against Manhwa. But Lu Hai doesn't believe it. He thinks that he still has a shot to defeat him and his limit type flow. He then suddenly launches from the ground and rushes toward Manhwa for a quick attack. Manhwa seems to be not so prepared for Lu Hai's next attack. He seems worried. Fortunately for Lu Hai, he managed to disarm Manhwa with his attack. Manhwa has lost a grip on the Rush Thunder sword. As Lu Hai passed through him, Manhwa also spurted out some blood from the front side of his body. Manhwa's clothes even got shattered into pieces. After the attack, Lu Hai was not able to land successfully. Instead, he crashed on the ground. Both of them lay on the ground after that. Lu Hai immediately tried to stand up, as he bet on who will be the one to recover first between them. Manhwa answered him that he will surely lose against him. He then explained to him that the durability and recovery ability of the limit type flow far surpass the super killer flow. In that case, he will certainly win in the end. He then grabbed the Rush Thunder sword back as he stood. He commended the greatness of the sword as he gazed over it for a few moments. All of a sudden, Manhwa's neck started to hurt, and a few beasts were wandering around the forest. All of them looked at the man that resembles the face of Manhwa. That was his first time participating in a military operation in his previous life. At that moment, he was ready to ambush a magical village. He used his special binoculars to see the creatures living there nearer. He then discovered that the villagers in that village are creatures that look like slender humanoids with pointy ears. Their skin is as red as blood, covered with dense, gorgeous patterns that resembles a spiritual pattern. The man also noticed that they were not even speaking any Earth languages, nor do they use Earth's weapons. All of a sudden, the captain ordered the man to leave no one alive. He hesitated to follow the order since he knew that there were kids together with those creatures. The captain, who referred to him as 99, called him crazy and blind, and then told him that there are no kids in there, only cubs of otherworld creatures. 99 was still hesitant even after hearing that, and so the captain let him remember that during the training, he was someone he truly admired. Be it shooting talent or the delicate knife technique evolved from the harvesting technique. At his age, he thinks that it was a miracle. However, his personality is too weak. The captain told 99 to keep his untimely humanity and think of the difficulties and dangers that the Dragon City is facing now. He also reminded him that their actions will determine the lives and deaths of many of their companions. He let him remember that even if they become despicable cockroaches, brutal demons, or cold machines, it is all worth it as long as the Earth civilization will continue to arise. After hearing that, 99 then agreed to him and told him that he now understands. Having said that, the captain then ordered him to deal with those cubs of alien creatures with his own hands later on. That way, he believes that he can leave the training camp and get stronger. However, it seems like 99 was not ready to do what he was asked to do just yet. The captain understands, since everyone in the training camp started preparing from a young age, unlike him who started in the middle. 99 told the captain that it was just human nature not to be ready. All of a sudden, blood scattered all over. Turns out, it was from him, especially from his neck. Someone told him that if he wasn't prepared for it, then he is useless. It was the captain who killed him hard-heartedly. Before he died, he told himself that in his next life, there will only be one answer no matter what he say. Yes, Instructor Roger, Manhwa said as tears flow slowly from his eyes. The captain reminded the troops again to not speak the Earth's languages. All of a sudden, Manhwa was there and was struggling to breathe. He said that he will stop them, and then he asked the kids to quickly run away. Manhwa was having a really hard time breathing, and he was also holding his neck, which was hurting. Someone was calling him, but he cannot hear him. He continued to call Manhwa, but still, there is no response. It was Lu Hai who was calling him. He suspects that Menkeo has become crazy due to cultivation failure. Menkeo was gasping and his eyes widened as he realizes that in his past life, Dragon City and the whole civilization has become something for the sake of survival. After a few moments, Menkeo gets up from where he lies, telling Lu Hai that he is fine now. Lu Hai gave him his clothes and asked him to wear them immediately. He also told him that his wounds have been treated. Lu Hai's father said that everyone has a monster in their heart, but it is suppressed by rules and regulations, so it cannot make any trouble. However, each super being is breaking those rules and regulations. That means that one day, they will have to face their inner monster. He then tossed Menkeo a solution to drink. Menkeo caught it. Lu Hai asked him if he knows why his dad stopped in Heaven Realm for so long. Menkeo didn't know, and so he asked him why. Lu Hai then explained to him that his dad was afraid. After he becomes God Realm, he will see the inner heart's deepest part, that monstrous self of him. He then told Menkeo that the cultivation is not only meant to increase combat ability, but also become stronger mentally, and be wary of the deep parts monster. He then asked him to take it easy if it is still possible, and remind him to not rush to increase his realm. Menkeo then wondered if he was really prepared to face his past life 99 Apocalypse's remnant soul. He sighed after a few moments of thinking deeply, and then after that, he drank the solution that Lu Hai gave him. It seems like Menkeo had a blast after gulping the solution. He then told Lu Hai that after hearing his words, it seems like his past 1 month of cultivation was a little impatient as he flicked Lu Hai's leg. Lu Hai smiled towards him and told him that it is good to hear that he doesn't think he is being so naggy. Menkeo stood up and started a speech telling Lu Hai that at first, he thought that they were simply just business partners. But after saying all those words to him that day, he now thinks that they are true friends. He then offered his hand to Lu Hai, and Lu Hai stared at him for a moment. Then he grabbed Menkeo's hand, showing that he is accepting their newly formed friendship. As they walked the hallways, Menkeo asked Oya where will he find the news from 20 to 30 years ago, because a friend of his asked him to thank the doctor who once treated his father. Oya then told him that he should go to the library on Super Being Tower's 3rd floor if he really wanted to find information about years ago. However, those who were able to open temporary hospitals or underground clinics back then were either dead, had become crazy, or had become strong experts in God Realm. Apparently, it would be very hard for Menkeo if he will continue looking for the information for his friend. But still, Menkeo wanted to give it a try even if it was up to fate. Oya then told him that he would bring him there since he was free at that moment, and he had nothing to do. He also told Menkeo that 20 to 30 years ago, the spiritual interference had not been solved. It is popular though. He is going to look at it in the hope of discovering the XI mark. They went straight to the front desk, and the assistant asked them if there was anything she could do to help them. Straightforwardly, Menkeo told her that he wanted to read newspapers and leaflets written 20 or 30 years ago. The assistant agreed to retrieve the relevant material from that time, but she told them that the data between July and September of the 22nd new era may not be retrieved. Menkeo then asked why it would be impossible to retrieve data from those years. He wondered what happened in those years. The assistant told him that it might be burnt. In the explosion in June, somehow the ground fire escaped into our warehouse, affecting a batch of materials. She then asked Menkeo if he was specifically looking for the data from those months of data. Menkeo calculated the time, and he thought that his mother would not have encountered that X-eyed picture so early, so he told the assistant that he probably didn't need those. All of a sudden, he realized that she was talking about the explosion that happened in June. He asked the assistant again just to confirm if she was talking about the explosion that happened in the Super Being Tower, and then he asked when exactly did it occur. The assistant then answered that it probably happened on June 7 or June 8. Oya realized that Menkeo has been acting weirdly the whole day, and so he suspects that there might be something wrong that happened with the explosion he has been talking about. Because of that, Menkeo asked him if he also knew something about that explosion. Oya told him that he did know something about it since it was the first explosion that affected the above ground after Super Being Tower was built. His father told him about it. He also explained to Menkeo that the damage was not that serious. Menkeo sighed after hearing about it. After the two finished discussing about the matter, the assistant was shivering in fear as she asked them if there was anything else she could do to help them. Menkeo thought to himself that Lu Wu was dispatched only once in early June, and that was the day that he was reborn. It was during the afternoon. The Super Being Tower's ancient experiment lab had a strange explosion at the same time. Menkeo started to sweat after realizing those things. That was the time when he got reborn and came back from the apocalypse. As they went out of the building, Oya told Menkeo that he knew it. That information about years ago is really hard to find. Then he tried asking him if the friend he had been talking about was a girl. Menkeo hesitated, and then he answered him that the friend he was talking about was not a girl. After saying that, Oya weirdly told Menkeo to not worry because he understood it, but he did not specify what it was that he understood. And then he left Menkeo without explaining. Because of that, Menkeo could not help but think about that thing that Oya said he understood. Menkeo also gets on a vehicle to go somewhere. Inside, he was in deep thinking about the things that are waiting for him to solve, such as the XI, his reborn, and even Dragon City's future. He thought it would be hard, so he needed a higher position to do all that in that short amount of time. The vehicle he was on then rushed quickly, just as thoughts on his mind do. 3 days later in Dragon City's north area, because there are rich mineral deposits and spiritual veins underground, various magnetic fields collide fiercely, resulting in the endless ground releasing violent energy. There are countless, peerless, and powerful beasts with abilities. That place is a restricted area for humans. It is the monsters' paradise, but more importantly, it is their hunting field. The machines were firing the beasts nonstop that day. Various kinds of beasts were there. Meanwhile, flying vehicles emerged behind the clouds. These vehicles were also used to fire at the beasts. There were a lot of them, enough to battle with the number of beasts there were. Thunder continued cracking the sky, but it would not stop them from firing those beasts. One of the vehicles is carrying Zai Feng inside it. At that moment, he seemed amazed by what he was seeing. He immediately called Menkeo, who was just sitting next to him. He wanted him to look at the large rune array outside, but Menkeo could not care less, and just said that it sure is amazing. He was looking at a map. He was trying to find out exactly what went wrong to let all the steel torrents in Dragon City come back in vain. By doing so, his head soon started to hurt. He was also thinking about the XI and the Last Life's instructor, which all shows that the war will definitely be a loss for them. But even if he already knew what would happen, he could not just tell the instructors about it unless he wanted to be treated as someone with neuropathy. He then decided to hunt at Shatterstar Lake first to train his sword technique and then increase his combat ability. The crux of the battle will be the confrontation between Gold Realm experts and Apocalypse ferocious beasts on the Raging Waves Mountain. While Menkeo was thinking about what he should do in order to turn the events, Zai Feng let him know that they were already at the Dong Lake base. Menkeo peeked at the window to see the base from up there. The Dong Lake base seemed very busy with people doing their thing in every corner of it. Meanwhile, their aircraft started to slow down and prepare for its landing. The students held tight on the ropes as the aircraft opened its way out. They then hanged their arms on one end of the rope and secured that it would not open by itself or whatever. Menkeo felt courageous all of a sudden after doing that. He told himself that he needed to become stronger in order to find the answers to all his questions. Subsequently, they all jumped together. Teacher Lai then called the attention of all the agricultural martial course students and asked them to gather next to her, as well as the agricultural resource course, and asked the tamer course to form a queue. The students responded to her call immediately and obeyed exactly what she said. Behind their back was a machine that still kept on firing. A girl was even in distress hearing it. In the meeting of wind and cloud, the young eagle shall spread its wings and become famous in the present. Teacher Lai then asked the students to follow her closely and advised them to not get separated from each other. They entered a building with a lot of fancy things around. On one side of it, there was a display of Lin Chuan. Written below his name are the words Engine Sky Organization Dragon Tiger Tempest Cloud Ranking Number 1. A few students recognized immediately that it was Lin Chuan and were all amazed by how handsome he was. A group of girls were even screaming in front of his picture, thinking that he was looking at them. Menkeo, on the other hand, seemed a little indifferent about their idol. He thinks that he was a commoner who became a Sky Realm expert, the hero who fought at the front line. Lin Chuan, the super being who rejected the offer by the major organization and stayed with the common people. Turns out, he was also his idol. He then screamed together with the girls. Teacher Lai dragged him by his ears since he seemed out of his mind, screaming and crying for their idol with those young girls. She dragged him until they reached the entrance, where Teacher Lai told a guard that they were from the Agricultural University and that they had come to register. Menkeo was thinking. He never heard the name of Senior Lin Chuan in his past life before. According to his talent and fame, he would at least be on the same standards as Soulbreaker Luo Wu. Does it mean that he was killed in the war? He asked himself. All of a sudden, a crying huge guy approached Menkeo as if he was going to tell him about his bullies. Having that thought in his mind that Lin Chuan might have died, he promised him that he would do everything to change his fate so he would not die. Menkeo was really enjoying his daydream. However, Zai Feng interrupted him to tell him that Teacher Lai said that she was going to take them to the cafeteria for lunch and to introduce them to their comrades from other universities as well. At the cafeteria, everyone was busy with their food. However, Menkeo noticed that a group of female students, again, had been looking at him in a strange way since Teacher Lai left. Suddenly, Zai Feng walked with him. He told Meng Kao that he had a friend who wanted to know how he broke into the girls' dormitory. He then asked for some enlightenment. Meng Kao told him that he doesn't have full control over his muscles since he doesn't practice the daredevil. It would be useless even if he told him unless he wants Meng Kao to teach him that. But Zai Feng made it clear to Meng Kao that he was not the one who wanted to know what he did but a friend of his. Meanwhile, Sunya was stopping a girl who wanted to beat the hell out of Meng Kao that day. Sunya explained that she wasn't stopping her, she was actually saving her from getting beaten up. Meng Kao and Zai Feng quickly escaped the danger they were in. Meng Kao then explained that he only sneaked into the girls' dorms just to confront Xu Yan. All of a sudden, someone with a huge arm grabbed Meng Chu on his shoulder. He turned his head to check who was it. He was a huge man with a pink hair. Out of nowhere, the man started crying out loud. On the other hand, Meng Kao had no idea who he was. The guy then explained that he was Big Bear, and then he gave Meng Kao a very tight hug as he asked him how he got so buff. While being choked by the tight hug, Meng Kao thought that since he was here, that meant he had become exalted too. Meng Kao then started to tease Big Bear, telling him that it took him too long before telling him what happened. Big Bear then asked him to stop teasing him. Then he told Meng Kao that it was true that he found his own heroic spirit and became a heroic spirit envoy, but all he wanted to do now was to cry. Meng Kao asked him what exactly happened and why he was so. Big Bear explained that he did not listen to Mr. Yan and insisted on joining the heroic spirits course through extra credit, but he could not keep up with them. Although he was making rapid progress with the help of his team, he still could not keep up with those monsters who had been consuming nutrient solutions as water since they were kids. Then their instructor paired him up with their class monitor and told her to be his mentor. But she gave him an impossible list of tasks and accepted no excuses. He started crying again as he told Meng Kao his story. He also told him that he now could not run away with his tail between his legs after being underestimated, mocked, and abused. Meng Kao commended him for not backing down from a challenge. Big Bear continued the story saying that they had a bet. If he could run 100 kilometers while carrying 300 kilograms of weight, she would admit that he was a diamond in the rough, and that she was the one who was incompetent, and if not, he would willingly drop out of the heroic spirit course. Meng Kao reminded him that he was a university student now, so he should act as one, but Big Bear just could not swallow the humiliation. In fact, he already signed and fingerprinted the transfer application and he was carrying it in his pocket. He plans on slapping it to her face once he wins the bet. Meng Kao thinks that he is being so dramatic, and so Big Bear asks him if he still wants to hear the story or not. Meng Kao begged him to continue. While the two of them were talking about her, a female student showed up behind them. She had green hair and she was carrying a gun. She heard Big Bear tell Meng Kao that if it weren't for Xiao Jiang, he would not end up in that situation. As expected, the girl with green hair behind them was her. She was Xiao Jiang. If that were a normal situation, Big Bear thinks that he must be crying now, but the thought of her thinking that he was a coward was stopping him from doing so. At that time, every time he finished a lap, he would turn and catch her gaping at him. The thought of her apologizing to him in regret after finishing the laps filled him with power. Meng Kao then asked him if he finished the bet or not. Big Bear proudly told him that he did not just finish the laps, he did more than the required laps. If Jiang had not called the instructor to carry him to the hospital, he would have gone more laps. In the end, he did not just prove his worth to her, but he also got acknowledged by a heroic spirit and became exalted. Meng Kao cheered for his achievement. Before Big Bear continued speaking, Meng Kao stopped him to say that he should be proud of himself since he mentioned that he wanted to cry. Big Bear just sighed to Meng Kao after telling him that. Then he told Meng Kao that it was a very long story as the tears in his eyes started to gush out. It seems like Meng Kao did not have enough time, so he tried to ask Big Bear to make the story shorter if it was that long. Sadly, Big Bear still thinks that he is just slightly stronger than a commoner even though he has become an envoy. He also thinks that he is no match in front of Super Beast. And then he slammed the table out of anger and regret. He blamed all these on Xiao Jiang. If he had not made that bet with her, he would not be stuck with that stupid heroic spirit. He then promised himself that he would take his revenge upon her to the point that even her father, Raiden Xiao Jingyang, would not be able to help her. Meng Kao noticed the girl behind Big Bear, and then he asked something about the class monitor he had been talking about. The girl was holding a huge sword stained with blood. She then got closer to where Big Bear was seated. Meng Kao then asked if the class monitor he was talking about was that lady. Big Bear was so clueless, but he immediately felt he was done for. He turned his face behind his back to see who was Meng Kao talking about. Unfortunately for Big Bear, it was really her. Xiao Jiang smashed the chair using her sword, making Big Bear to be thrown away. Big Bear tried to stop her and told her to stay away from him because she already promised him that she would stop beating him after finishing the run. Manhua was disappointed because Big Bear's words now did not match his bravery and what he said earlier when Xiao Jianqing was not there. However, Xiao Jianqing assured Feikong that she would not beat him that day. Actually, she was just dropping by to tell him that she had overfulfilled the task that was assigned to them so he could go and collect his share of iron blood coins later. But instead of being relieved that the assignment had been finished, Big Bear got angrier at her for doing it all by herself. She then explained to him that their enemies were the three-eyed sphinxes. It would probably take a whole night to defeat one with his military boxing, and that is why she acted alone. Then she told him that she would share half of the gains with him for the next few days, and to consider her advice to leave the heroic spirit since it would not benefit him now anyone on the team. Big Bear could not hold out his anger any longer for all the insults that Xiao Jianqing was telling him, so he gestured like he was about to crush her by his hands. He then told her that one day, his heroic spirit would be stronger than her Valkyrie. I would be even stronger than her father's Raiden. They stared at each other and the tension between the two of them was very noticeable. She then turned to Manhua and told him that as his friend, he should help her persuade his friend to consider her advice for the better. All of a sudden, it seemed like she recognized him. She asked him if he was Manhua from the Agricultural University. Manhua told her that he was. However, he could not believe that she knew him. Unfortunately, it seemed like she did not know him because of his greatness, since she told him that jerks were attracted to other jets before she left and go. Because of that, Manhua could not help himself but asked Big Bear what was wrong with his class monitor. Big Bear then realized that Manhua had no idea that he had a bad reputation within the 5 University Union. Apparently, there was a rumor going around the 5 University Union that a student named Manhua from Agricultural University had been practicing the daredevil style, just so he could sneak into places he should not be, such as bathrooms. Because of that, many girls see him as a monster now and the boys want to capture him to learn the techniques. Manhua grinned as an evil. He does not believe that the boys want to learn the techniques just to criticize him, but to do something else. On the East League camp, Manhua was complaining about using almost all of the B-coins he earned at Agricultural University after renting his tent and buying all the food that he was pushing into his tent. After some time, he finally reached his tent. He sat down on the chair and prepared himself for a very big meal. Before eating, he told Big Bear, as if he was there with him, that he owes him big for this. Then he got notifications congratulating him for obtaining novice rank in military boxing that soon upgraded some level until he reached the rank of intermediate. At that moment, he swallowed all the food in front of him as if there was no tomorrow coming next. In a matter of a few minutes, Manhua had already eaten all the food he bought. He cleaned himself with all the residue of the food right after finishing eating. All of a sudden, a memory from his previous life popped out of his head. It was a memory of him in military boxing training from his previous life. He was in some sort of basement. He did not notice last time that he was actually wearing a uniform which is completely different from the Vermilion Army. He wondered what kind of organization was he in. He even got a tattoo on his chest. It was a skull that was emerging some sort of smoke that is color red. All of a sudden, a pig head was in front of his face, close enough that it blocked his sight. He was frightened by the pig head and so he shouted a little. Turns out, it was Wu Wu who brought the pig head. He asked her what was she doing there. Wu Wu answered that she went there to give him the pig head and also to learn the daredevil technique. She then explained that being defeated by the strong, learning from the strong, defeating the strong, and then eating the strong is the law of survival. She then stopped for a moment when she placed her hand over her chest. And then she continued, telling him that he could eat her whole if he managed to beat her. Before he knew it, Wu Wu had already started again with the whole eating thing. Because of that, he asked Wu Wu to stop making such misleading remarks. All of a sudden, he realized that Wu Wu was a special student enrolled in the beast taming course, and also, she would be a great asset in spreading the daredevil if he taught it to her. He then tells Wu Wu that he would agree to teach her the daredevil, but on one condition: she has to promise him one thing. She has to beat the other special students, including Xiao Jianqing, who are in the East Lake basement rankings. Wu Wu smiled all over her ears as she immediately agreed with his deal. Now that it was settled, Manhua stood up to fix himself, and then invited Wu Wu to go to the training room because he would now show her the power of the daredevil. Wu Wu hesitated for a moment and turned her face towards the pig head she brought him. She then munched the pig head as fast as she could. She even filled her mouth with it, leaving Manhua in awe. When Manhua looked back at the pig head, half of it was already gone. 3 hours later, the students gathered inside Manhua's rented tent. They were all busy talking to their friends and it seemed like everyone was having fun. Someone told Zifeng that Manhua was a real legend. He heard that he was severely punished after getting caught red-handed trying to sneak into the girls' bathroom. Someone also told him that the information he got was that Menkeo was not caught on the spot. People only found out what he did later. The other students then realized that there were a couple of versions of the story, and so they asked the other students to tell it. After a few minutes, Menkeo came into the room. He asked if everyone was there yet. Zai Feng whispered to Menkeo. He asked him why are those students there. Those fellows were notorious troublemakers back in their high schools. However, it seemed like Menkeo did not care at all. He just smiled at each and every one of them. He even shakes hands with the others. A student with white hair told Menkeo that they didn't care about the daredevil. What they want is to know how he managed to sneak into the girls' bathroom. Menkeo just laughed after hearing it. But a few moments later, he shouted out of anger and asked who the hell said that. The room was immediately covered with silence after Menkeo shouted as if everyone was too afraid to get on Menkeo's nerves. However, the one who said was not afraid at all. He presented himself to Menkeo. His name was Zhang Hongji, and he was the one who said it. He actually came there to see how powerful Menkeo is. He then urged Menkeo to show them some skills since the clock is ticking and time is precious. In exchange, he would give him iron blood coins, monster loot, or martial arts techniques. But he also told him that it was just okay if he was just boasting about his skills. After all, they went there to support Fakeshing. Menkeo just smirked after hearing that. And then he started removing his uniform as if he was preparing himself to show off some skills. Zhang Hongji turned red and felt awkward for him. He wanted to stop him since there were a lot of people inside the tent. Menkeo was almost fully naked when he told Zhang Hongji that actions are better than words, and then he urged him to come and get a taste of the daredevil himself. Zhang Hongji also removed his clothes, and then he urged Menkeo to show whatever petty tricks he had on him. He also told him that he was not scared at all. Menkeo immediately got into his combat stance, showing Zhang Hongji that he was ready for a fight. Big Bear was there and he recognized the stance. He wondered if Menkeo was going to use military boxing for the fight. Zhang Hongji told him that he would not go soft on him just because he would be using military boxing. He launches towards Menkeo for an attack. Menkeo did not move even if Zhang Hongji was getting closer and closer to him. Zai Feng thinks that it would be bad for Menkeo since he is more of an agility fighter. He might run into some mobility constraints in this small tent. Menkeo crossed her arms on his chest, and then he stomped his foot in front of him. It was the military boxing 6th form, which is called the block and hook. Using that move, he managed to dodge Zhang Hongji's attack. Zhang Hongji could not believe that he was able to do that. Zai Feng also realized just now that military boxing could be useful in some ways, just like in this situation. Zhang Hongji was now fired up. He was ready for a real fight as his main vessels showed on his skin. Menkeo's main vessels also showed around his body. Zhang Hongji tried to kick Menkeo in the face, but luckily, Menkeo managed to block it with his hand. Another kick on his body, but Menkeo seemed to not feel anything at all. Zai Feng shouted to tell Menkeo that it was a block and uppercut. Menkeo then gathered his strength in his right hand and prepared himself for an attack. One blow on Zhang Hongji's body, and he was done for. Menkeo's punch was too powerful for him. Big Bear realized that Menkeo's military boxing is a killing technique and not the real military boxing. After knocking the hell out of Zhang Hongji, another student, named Chen Jianjun, presented himself to Menkeo. He was a new intake from the engineering course. He then got into the little battlefield Menkeo had set up inside his tent to start the fight. Just like earlier, Menkeo stopped his opponent's attacks and then followed with an uppercut. However, Chen Jianjun managed to dodge Menkeo's first attack. He then prepared for another attack as soon as he could. This time, the punch successfully hit Chen Jianjun's belly, making him spurt some saliva due to its strength. The two of them could not stand up after getting beaten up by Menkeo. Miraculously, Menkeo was not exhausted at all. He asked the crowd if there was still anyone who wanted to go next. The other students now realize and prove with their own eyes that Menkeo truly is something. They think that even their instructors could never execute a punch that way. A student with yellow hair told another student that they could go ahead if they wanted to fight Menkeo. He was not up for it because he said he was a wise general. Menkeo then explained to every one of them that just like what they saw, all their abilities would be improved by the daredevil. Even the most basic martial arts techniques. All of a sudden, Big Bear raised his voice and told Menkeo that he wanted to fight against him. Menkeo could not really tell whether he was just messing or he just seriously wanted to fight. Big Bear told him that he was sure. He was also a student of the military school after all. He wanted to prove something to Menkeo. He told Menkeo that the real military boxing is the fist of protection. It should be used to protect their home. The crowd then cheered for Big Bear after saying those words. It seemed like Menkeo had no other choice but to fight against his friend, Big Bear, since everyone was already hyped up. He then glared at him as he told him to start the fight at once. In an instant, Manhwa as well as Big Bear have positioned themselves for the battle. Manhwa was ready to use military boxing again for this one. Big Bear also confirms that his military boxing skills are ready for the battle as well. Meanwhile, Manhwa was having a dilemma about whether he would go easy on him and let him hold on for a few moves. All of a sudden, Big Bear lounges from the ground for an offensive attack called a lunge punch. Luckily, Manhwa was quick enough to notice it and defend himself against the attack. Manhwa punched him back, but Big Bear grabbed his hand. It was bad news for Manhwa. Big Bear then pulled him towards him and then he struck him with a second form piercing kick. Manhwa managed to block the kick, however. Quickly, he threw a punch again but Big Bear moved backwards to dodge it. It seemed like it was a fair fight. Everyone was cheering for both of them. Actually, the crowd was not expecting Big Bear to be that good against Manhwa because some of them had already seen him fight and he only had a mediocre skill. Manhwa and Big Bear simultaneously throw a punch at each other making their fists meet halfway. The impact of the collision of their fist was great, showing how strong the attacks were. After that, the both of them stopped for a while to take a breath. But after a few minutes, Big Bear urged Manhwa to come at him again. Manhwa asked him what was he up to. He thought that he would help him promote the use of the daredevil. Big Bear explained that he doesn't like his military boxing, that is why. In an instant, Manhwa disappeared as if he blinked from Big Bear's front towards his back. Manhwa headlocked Big Bear while telling him that his talk was rubbish. The only reason why the soldier wants him to beat him up is because he subconsciously wants to beat him up. Big Bear then revealed that he actually wanted to beat him up since the time he started acting so cool before the exams. Manhwa seemed to be caught off guard by Big Bear after telling him that. He was able to escape from being headlocked and also managed to turn the tables. This time, Manhwa was held captive by Big Bear with his hands on his back. Big Bear then prepared for an attack called Gallop Leap, Whooping Smack. Unexpectedly, Manhwa did a backflip to dodge Big Bear's approaching attack. He still was holding him in his other hand. Manhwa landed successfully. He then grabbed Big Bear's head using the hand held by him. Big Bear was left in awe by how fast Manhwa was. And all of a sudden, Manhwa promised Big Bear that he would never act cool again in front of him and he asked for a favor to stop the fight. But still, Big Bear wanted to spar with him. Manhwa was pissed by what Big Bear told him. He explained to him once again that that thought was not because of anything but because of his subconsciousness. Having said that, Big Bear lifted Manhwa off the ground and was about to slam him back into the ground. It seemed like Manhwa got caught off guard again and it seems like he won't get away this time. But after being tossed and slammed into the goring, Manhwa still managed to land perfectly. He then asked Big Bear to call it a day for the both of them. He just wanted to spar with him and not to find who was stronger. More importantly, Manhwa just showed him all that everything could be lethal, even the basic military boxing, with the support of the daredevil. He then presented a study carried out by Master Luo Wu and his teacher Gu Jianbo about the future changes in Dragon City's fighting style. He showed him an beast found in the fog's depth. It was discovered by Master Luo as they headed deeper into the fog. The monsters became faster and more alert. More and more exalts were killed while they were charging up their ultimate skill, or when they were in cooldown with no ultimate skill to use. Then he asked everyone if they understood what that meant. Someone answered that it means that they have to be more adept at using their ultimate skills and mastering them to avoid long cooldowns. However, they were wrong. It meant that in the future, they needed to be faster in both offense and defense. Control will be more important than the output. He then explained to them that the prodigy of the Agricultural University's martial arts course, Senior Zhang Yi, had foreseen such a future. That is why he sacrificed himself to build a foundation for the daredevil. It was so Mr. Gu could complete the first stage. Using 1042 submeridians to cultivate is no longer a fool's errand. Finally, he told them that he knew that what he was saying didn't prove anything yet, but they would soon witness the true power of the daredevil once he fought at Star Crush Lake 3 days from now. When that time comes, he hopes that they will give the daredevil and themselves a chance. 3 days later, at the Star Crush Lake region, Nameless Lake number 421, machine guns have been firing continuously, splashing the calm water of the lake and disturbing the beasts living underwater. On the land area, beasts with 4 legs were running for their lives. They don't even have the time to mind bumping their heads from one tree to another as they run. All of a sudden, one beast has been pierced from its back through its abdomen by a huge chunk of something. Turns out, it was the leg of a multi-legged armored vehicle called a long-legged arachnid. It resembles a huge spider, that's why it was called that way. But it was not alone. There were a few other long-legged piercing the beasts running with them. All of a sudden, a compartment from the side of the long-legged vehicle opened up and a scanner-like device came out from it. Subsequently, a green light emerged from it as it scanned the area in front of it. Not long after, a few figures started emerging from the lake. They were creatures which had a very thick gray skin with scales that covered their whole body. They also have long sharp claws. It resembles a crocodile because of its body and its long powerful tail. Inside the vehicle, Menkeo and the others were analyzing the kind of species. Its details were flashed on the screen. Teacher Lai told them that those were the most significant threats and the geographical environment in Zone 421 that they will be facing. She then ordered Menkeo along with the other crews to use their heads to make sensible judgments and choose the right equipment. They will leave in 30 minutes. The exosuits started to clang after the students wore them. Sunya seemed to be enjoying the moment because she always dreamed of wearing those suits out in the field. On the other hand, Zai Feng noticed that the suits have improved a lot. Despite all the compliments from the other students about their equipment, Menkeo still thinks that he would never wear that kind of suit on him, after all. All of a sudden, Duan Lion agreed with Menkeo and told everyone that they should leave all of the equipment in the warehouse just to sympathize with him. However, Menkeo then told them that that was not like the entrance exam's combat test, and then he sighed as he wore his equipment. Duan Lion was sad that Menkeo did not want to use the equipment. He could not understand him since the equipment was great and cool looking. Zai Feng told him that maybe they just could not understand Kao the Great's mind. The vehicles that looked like military tanks approached the lake where the beasts were situated. After some time, they finally reached the area. Someone gets off from the vehicle, thudding his foot to the ground with his exosuit. It was Duan Lion who was in the middle and the one who told the other guys to keep up with him since they were already outside the base at that time, so they should never be left behind. This is now a real fight and not just a mock battle. According to the classification of the Dragon City, that place is a deep yellow zone. Other than a few boss-level monsters, there aren't any super beasts there. Afterwards, Teacher Lai ordered the students that their goal is to kill 90% of the monsters before dark and turn the area into a light yellow zone. She then explained that once their mission is done, the regular troops of the Vermilion Dragons will enter and conduct a deep cleanup. And then she reminds them to be cautious because every oversight they make could cost the lives of the Vermilion Dragons' regular troops. The students agreed with her as they understood the importance of their mission. Teacher Lai then told them to spread around and start killing those monsters. All of a sudden, a man with long white hair noticed the lively students and youngsters, which reminded him of that year. He also told his companion that they only needed to support the main troop and scout the wilderness back in the day. They weren't as lucky as them. Teacher Lai agreed with him, telling him that it was fortunate and unfortunate to be involved in a battle that would determine the future of the Dragon City. The man answered her that after all it takes is just a little beating to make them all obedient. Teacher Lai sighed as she murmured her hope that there would not be too many casualties. Strong winds rolled out the field that day. Meanwhile, Zai Feng swings his sword in order to kill the beast in front of him. He could not hide his joy after killing his first beast. He even thinks that it was just a piece of cake. Not long after, Duan Lion killed his moment by telling him that he had only killed one beast, yet Sunya had already slain 5. Duan Lion then told him that he needed to charge, and since he was slowly plotting everyone behind, which is why he only got the leftovers. After having a short discussion, Duan Lion then asked him to continue the mission. Unlike anyone else, Sunya was showing great skills and seriousness about the mission, as if she wanted to prove something. She continued slaying beast after beast in a very short manner of time. It seemed like she was really enjoying her time slaying those beasts. Turns out, she was actually slaying as many beasts as she could so that she could make it to the top of the leaderboard and be noticed by the hotspots. However, she noticed that she could not move her feet. Unfortunately, they got stuck. While she was stuck, a number of beasts suddenly emerged and approached to attack her. She was helpless at that time, and so the beasts successfully launched towards her, making her fall to the ground. Fortunately, Sunya still managed to save herself from that situation by pushing the beasts away from her. After clearing the area around her, she immediately called everyone. She warned them about what happened to her when the grass got into the spherical joints of the mechanical exosuit. It jammed up. Jiuying Rui was the first one to answer Sunya's call. He then checked his suit, but there was nothing inside his suit's spherical joints. He thought that it was just a low probability event. All of a sudden, he started sinking down. He had just realized that he was standing in a swamp all this time, and now almost half of his legs were submerged underwater. Meanwhile, someone behind the long grass shouted for help because his exosuit had been jammed too. Jiuying Rui also called for help as he got stuck in the swamp. They then called Ms. Lai for help. Meanwhile, Teacher Lai was more ready to respond to the call of her students than they were expecting. Her surroundings started to light up with fire extending upward. From afar, Sunya seemed to notice the fire, but she did not have enough time to pay much attention to it because she was busy fighting with the beast. The fire turned into something that resembled a huge phoenix. It flashed its majestic wings and long sharp claws as it floated behind Teacher Lai. All of a sudden, it released a powerful sound that echoed around the area. The beasts that Sunya was fighting heard the sound, and soon after they heard it, they all ran away as if they knew they would surely be done for if they did not. Finally, Sunya got the time to take a breath and rest for some time. She was not expecting the beasts to be that annoying. On the other part of the lake, Duan Lion stepped into something that was slowly sucking him down beneath the ground. Jiang Rui was experiencing the same as him. Still, he was stuck there and could not move his legs. All they were hoping was for Teacher Lai to come over and help them with their situations. Meanwhile, Zai Feng noticed that Teacher Lai had started making her move as he noticed the phoenix above the sky. Having the knowledge that Teacher Lai was doing something, he inferred that maybe the situation was that bad. All of a sudden, he heard something behind the tall grass. He wondered what was it. Turns out, it was a beast and it was quickly running towards to attack him. When it reached the open area where Zai Feng was standing, it quickly jumped off the ground towards Zai Feng. Luckily, he was able to dodge the beast by lowering his body down. However, a bunch of the same beasts ran quickly following the first one who attacked him. It turns out that the first one was not really attacking Zai Feng, but instead, it was running away to escape, and so are those bunch of beasts that did not even notice Zai Feng there. But still, Zai Feng was scared for his life seeing the amount of beasts that ran past him. All he wished for was for those beasts to not step on his face. The students were exhausted after fighting with those beasts. They have the same thoughts about those beasts being so scary when they come in groups. On the other hand, Teacher Lai was kind of disappointed with their behavior earlier. She told them they should know how to deal with those small groups of beasts as Exalta. On the leaderboard, Jiara Wu has already killed 63 beasts in just 30 minutes, making her name to be at the top of the list. Zai Feng was wondering if Meng Kao was right after all. He remembered that Jiara Wu did not put on her exosuit either. Meng Kao was in 6th place earlier with 7 kills, but he eventually went up the leaderboard to 3rd place following Sun in the 2nd. After some time, a student asked Teacher Lai to switch the camera feed to Jiara Wu. He explained to her that he wanted to observe and find the gap difference between them. They then witnessed how easily it is for Jiara Wu to slaughter those beasts using her claws and with the help of leopard. It seemed like no beast could ever escape her sharp claws. Every one of them suffered a quick and painful death. After seeing that, the other students could not look at how brutal her killing skills were. All of a sudden, Zai Feng noticed that Meng Kao had gone up the leaderboard again. He was now in the 1st place. They thought that it was impossible because it had only been 2 minutes. Because of that, Duan Lion requested to change the camera feed to Meng Kao because he wanted to see what kind of tricks he was using this time. They saw green beasts on the screen and they recalled the one responsible for damaging their exosuits by spraying its poison in midair. After being shot, it exploded, making the poison get all over them. They also noticed that Meng Kao was using the rocket step. They think that he was using it to speed up getting closer to the beast and kill it before it spews poison. But Duan Lion thinks that it is useless because the beast will explode after dying. They noticed that Kao used the first form of the 100 combat sword technique called the lunge stab. It was exactly done the same as in the textbook. Next, Meng Kao did the sidestep which was taught to them by their instructor. Turns out, Meng Kao actually did the sidestep just to avoid the likengator at the back. They then wondered whether he had eyes on his back. He thinks that someone must be helping him since he heard that Master Luo Wu is planning to film a documentary of him on the battlefield to promote a new sword. And because of that, he asked for a drone view of Meng Kao. Other students could not believe that Duan Lion would say something like that to Meng Kao. However, Duan Lion had his reason to think that way. Zai Feng asked Duan Lion why was he spreading rumors against Meng Kao again when he already made up with him a couple of days ago. But Duan Lion defended himself that he was not saying he was cheating. He just wanted to see how he did all those impossible moves and to learn from watching him as well. All of a sudden, Teacher Lai told them that she was getting curious about it too. And so they switched to the drone view and connected to his communicator. Teacher Lai also thinks that it would be beneficial to everyone to gain some pointers from watching how Meng Kao fights from the drone view. On the battlefield, Meng Kao thinks that the beasts in the wild are not the same as those they encountered in Drek. Meanwhile, something was watching him while hiding behind the grass. Meng Kao thinks that their abilities blend perfectly with the environment, making them more dangerous than those in Draken. He seemed not to notice the beast at his back. All of a sudden, the beast at the back revealed itself and roared. Very simply, Meng Kao raised his sword and put it over his shoulder and the beast was killed. The sword pierced into the beast's mouth. He did not even flinch a little by doing so. However, Duan Lion was still unimpressed even after seeing how Meng Kao easily killed that huge beast. Meng Kao doesn't know how to kill a calamity beast but the beast in front of him that time. A simple swish of his sword would get the job done so easily. They do not have to rely on any sure kill moves for the beast like that one. Sunya now noticed how quickly Menkeo had been killing all those monsters, so she asked him to teach her the moves in order for her to kill as much as he could. However, Menkeo told Sunya that he was not killing that fast. The reason behind that sudden increase in his count was the error caused by data latency. The wounds that he caused to all those monsters were too minor, leaving them alive and kicking for life for half a day before succumbing. Sunya then wondered how was he able to control the size of the wounds all the time despite the number of monsters in such a chaotic situation. A beast attacked Menkeo, but he was able to easily dodge it by just leaning on his side. He then explained to Sunya that by learning the Daredevil, he gained the same control over his body that he has. Then he proceeded for an attack called the Rocket Step as quickly as he could. He pierced his sword through the beast's side and made his way through its heart. He did it so easily because he already dissected thousands of monsters, making him too familiar with it. Meanwhile, Duan Lion asked him how was he able to dodge in advance as if he could see what was behind him. Zai Feng thinks that he might have stolen the thunder again. Menkeo then explained to them that that was the biggest advantage of the Daredevil. He then asked Teacher Lai to change the view from his first-person view. He told everyone to watch closely as he adjusted the thing on his arm. There, the students saw that Menkeo's body hair was knotted in different styles, showing that he has full control over his body. Moreover, his senses were also greatly enhanced. So no matter which direction the monsters attacked, he could easily feel the wind generated by their attacks and thus dodge them. After hearing that, Duan Lion then realized that the Daredevil seemed to be more suited for escaping because it didn't have any sure kill moves. Menkeo agreed with him. However, he would cultivate all 1024 submeridians with the Daredevil. Thus, there would be no issues with cultivating their styles too. While explaining all that, Menkeo was able to have another monster suffer. He kicked it so hard. And then he brought out his sword and used the demon-crushing slash. What he has been doing is first, he would restrain the target. When they were hanging in midair, he would construct a magnetic field to unleash the killing move to increase accuracy. After all, he explained that they were still freshmen, and they were not combat geniuses like Ms. Lai, so they probably cannot put out more than 80% of their killing moves in effect in their first battle. Teacher Lai then ordered him to stop beating around the bush and spit his point directly. Menkeo knew that some people thought that he was a trickster, and that he was not as strong when it came to real fighting. But in the real battle, they can lose their lives at any moment, and the monsters would be more cunning than him. He knew that the Daredevil was not as flashy as they expected, but it could definitely increase everyone's survivability on the battlefield tremendously. Now, Duan Lion seemed to be considering it. Menkeo then mentioned to Ms. Lai that it would take a while for the Daredevil training equipment to arrive, but they can start changing their battle move as early as now. So, he looked at Ms. Lai as if he was telling her that she knew what she had to do. Teacher Lai suddenly told everyone to try finishing their fights using only normal attacks from then on. The students agreed with what she told them. However, Teacher Lai added that that was not an order, but just a suggestion, and then she ordered them to go back to the battlefield. Meanwhile, at the Sky Bliss Garden, Xiao Cao and her mom were having a conversation about the rainstorm that fell on the Star Crush Lake and the large number of monsters that suddenly appeared along with the fog. The same thing was also discussed on TV with the expert from the survival committee, Lu Ren, telling the facts. Xiao Cao then asked her mom if she heard anything from Menkeo recently, since he had been at the front line for almost 3 months now and yet he had not called even once. Despite Xiao Cao's worry, her mom just poked her on her forehead for addressing his brother by his name and not with honorifics. She then gave Xiao Cao her lunch and told her not to be like his brother. She explained to her that he had not called home, but he had been actively promoting the Daredevil. He should be just fine. Xiao Cao then told her mom not to worry because when she became exalted, she would bring his brother home and tie him up so that he could not leave home anymore. Her mom just pinched and stretched her checks from side to side, knowing that she just really wanted to tie her brother down and not because of her. Afterwards, Xiao Cao then left and went off to school with a big smile on her face. But as soon as he closed the door, her face went down and she could not hide her sadness any longer. Her mom was doing the same as her. She looked out the window and thought of her son. She was obviously worried for her son, but she could not do anything but wish for her son to be just fine. At the East Lake base's outskirts, machine guns were positioned outside and were continuously firing at the beasts who were approaching the area. Aside from those machine guns, a train comes and is also firing beasts along its way. After a few minutes, the train successfully entered the building. The bridge has been cut to keep anything outside from approaching the building. Inside the train were the students who were busy unloading the medicine packs the train brought. Menkeo then thought that after that rainstorm in November, the environment had become harsher than it already was and the monsters had grown and evolved at a rapid pace. He was thinking about how the monsters endlessly attacked the highway as if they knew how important it was to the front line when one of the doctors asked him to put the box over there. The monster's intelligence must have grown. Some species even learned how to cooperate, and the number of student casualties had been rising. On the other hand, there was a significantly higher survival rate among those who adopted the daredevil. He hopes that this small change might overturn the overall situation. Just right in time, Zai Feng asked Meng Keo if he wanted to tag along after they finished moving all the supplies for a different mission. Meng Keo agreed to join and asked Zai Feng to let him know when are they going to depart. At the deep yellow zone near the Star Crush Lake, Meng Keo jumped from one tree root to another in order to get to the spot where they would do their mission. Duan Lion hates to admit it, but it really seems like the daredevil is a great help to deal with the regular monster now that they are getting smarter. It is also much more reliable. Jiang Rui immediately followed Meng Keo as he also jumped from one route to another. Zai Feng then asked the others to hurry or else they would not be able to discern the path that Keo discovered. He doesn't want to scout his way through that damp swamp himself. Sunya then advised them to observe Meng Keo closely. If there are no problems, then they should bring him with them when they go to the Tombstone Forest. Zai Feng told her that it would not be necessary for Meng Keo with his capability. He can easily get away from a super beast if he cannot beat it. Duan Liam agreed with Zai Feng. The daredevil is, indeed, well suited for escaping. For the last 2 months, he had already seen many who had learned the style get back to base alive. Jian Rui suddenly told them that Keo was a great harvester while all of them were running with all their speed. Zai Feng answered him. He told him that he almost forgot about that. And then Sunya noticed that Meng Keo had stopped running. She then asked him what was the matter as Meng Keo stayed still at a branch of a tree looking afar. Meng Keo told the others to keep their voices down and listen carefully. All of a sudden, there was a rustling in the grasses near where they were at that moment. Duan Lion thinks that it is a snake monster based on its sound, and then he told everyone to be careful. After some time, snake monsters started to emerge from the trees. They have purple scales and glaring red eyes. The hissing of the snakes echoed around the forest, bringing terror to everyone. All of a sudden, it seems like the snake monsters have already surrounded Meng Keo as well as the other students. Indeed, it was a bad news. Sunya then just discovered that it was a horde of blade scourges they were about to deal with. In an instant, Meng Keo launched from where he was standing holding his swords on both of his hands. Zai Feng was worried about Meng Keo, so he asked him immediately to come back at once because there might be a super beast among that horde. However, Meng Keo just smiled at him and asked him to not worry about him, for he knew exactly what he was doing. As Meng Keo launched, the snake monster subsequently opened their mouths as wide as they could and reached for him. He landed on the snake monster's body, and then he jumped once again. This time, he reached for the snake's lower body part and injected something into it. After injecting all the solution, he then landed on the ground with no damage taken. All of a sudden, the snake monster started to growl as if it was in great pain. Then its eyes widened and its body started to get paralyzed. Finally, the snake monster bent itself as if it could not control its body anymore. Zai Feng was so proud of what Meng Keo did, but Sunya was wondering how was he able to do that. He explained that it was just because of a little footwork, a little preparation, and along with a quick-acting muscle hardener he injected into them. Before everyone had caught up, he already discovered the snake monsters and sprayed more than 20 kinds of biological agents on their bodies in advance. Shatter Sword Python mainly relies on the sense of smell and heat changes to perceive the enemy. The extreme current can temporarily regulate the body temperature to a certain extent, and those biological agents can paralyze the Shatter Sword Python's sense of smell. All he had to do was to find the special round scale near the python's heart. With the right vibration frequency, the syringe can be easily pierced and inserted into the skin through the meshes deep into the heart, and then draw its heart blood. With the precious blood drawn, the Shatter Sword Python would become weak for a long period of time. This will cause them to be eaten out by other monsters very quickly, to better reduce the monster's amount as the fog thickens. Meng Keo often injects that slow-release poison that he concocted himself into the monsters that can't be transported back to the base. But that's not it. The biggest specialty of that kind of poison is that it's difficult to decompose into the monster's body. It will slowly grow until it reaches the lethal dose. Zai Feng believes that Meng Keo's method was definitely useful, but he could not stop himself from worrying about what would happen if they accidentally consumed it by mistake. Meng Keo then explained that the biggest advantage of the poison is that it is not resistant to high temperatures. It will lose toxicity after being boiled in water for 5 to 10 minutes. After all that he had said and done, Sunya thinks that it is not Meng Keo's first time to do it. He even seems proficient with it. He sure is. Basically, he has to hunt monsters every day. 10% will be brought to the base, and the others will be handled in a similar way, leaving some surprises for those monsters. Duan Lion could not really believe that Menkeo had been bringing on 10% of the monsters he hunted, and yet his results are almost the same as the four of them. Menkeo just shook his shoulders as if to show that he could not do anything about it. After the discussion, Sunny invited Menkeo to come with them to the Tombstone Forest to slaughter monsters. She thinks that they can make names for themselves there. However, Menkeo doesn't want to go. He thinks that it is too dangerous. Duan Lion barged into the conversation, telling him that he knew his limit-type flow was not strong enough against the super beasts, but they could definitely win if they formed a team with them. However, that was not what Menkeo was trying to tell them. He meant that it was too dangerous to team up with him and go to the Tombstone Forest. In the northwest direction, 3 to 5 kilometers from there should be the Overlord reptile monsters, and there might be a dragon-type super beast. Menkeo had been waiting for so many days for it, and now it has finally appeared. Everyone was rushing in the northwest direction where the dragon-type monster might be. They took the swamp in order to get there. It was difficult for them to run fast in their current situation. All of a sudden, Menkeo felt like someone was fighting against a super beast somewhere. With that in mind, he ran faster in order to catch up. Zai Feng noticed that Menkeo was running even faster. He then wondered what might be the reason for that. Sunna thinks that he might discovered something urgent, and so she urges the others to speed up and follow him. On the battlefield, people who were wearing exosuits seemed in trouble. The woman behind the other then told her teammates to crawl down as if something was about to hit them. They all dropped at once as fire emerged from somewhere behind them. The fire was powerful. There was even a magma-like material gushing out from somewhere. It has caught up, someone said as they saw the sharp claws of a beast in a huge bird form with fiery feathers. She ordered everyone to run as the beast started growling and emitting fire from its body. She also requested reinforcement, but it seems like no one was getting her message. Rescue came for them. However, the vehicle exploded after the beast fired it. They are done for, they said, losing hope of surviving their current situation with the fire dragon. The man helped the woman get up and asked her to run because the fire feather dragon would chase up soon. They tried their best to get up and run, even though they were both hurting from their injuries, because if they did not move, the fire feather dragon would surely slaughter them both. All of a sudden, someone was firing the fire feather dragon. Actually, there were a number of crab-like vehicles firing the dragon continuously. They were shooting the dragon in all directions. Eventually, the fire feather dragon started to cry in agony and pain. Because of that sight, the crew thinks that they were already saved. It was a fire feather dragon, said the man who was riding one of the vehicles. He added that it was rare to encounter it at Shatterstar Lake today, so he thinks that he was quite lucky. The man with green hair was named Zhu Sheng, and because it was he who came, the crew thinks they were, indeed, saved. The vehicles continued firing the beast nonstop. Zhu Sheng, who was on land, also shoots the beast. All of a sudden, the fire feather dragon started channeling its strength, and then it released fire from its mouth towards Zhu Sheng. Bad news, the signal is concealed by the fire feather dragon's spirit fire, so Zhu Sheng could not control it properly. Because of that, Zhu Sheng tried to move in a different direction. However, the fire feather dragon seemed to be calculating his movements. It then channeled a ball of fire again in its mouth and released it powerfully towards Zhu Sheng. He was surprised that it can predict so far. It should not be happening. The power and the attack range were different from the data storage information. It means that it is really a fire feather dragon. Even though its body is huge, it can still turn around in a short period of time, and also, its combat intelligence is so high. He then decided to get out of his spider war vehicle to lure the fire feather dragon away. However, not even a minute had passed and the vehicle had already been torn up by the fire feather dragon, making him be thrown away. Before crashing to the ground, he aimed his weapon towards the fire feather dragon and wished the beast to die. The weapon attached to his hand activated. It eventually released a ball of energy towards the mouth of the fire feather dragon. The ball of energy became massive as he shot it towards the beast. The impact of the attack was too powerful, which is why he crashed to the ground after dealing the damage. Zhu Sheng grinned as he thought of how strong the fire feather dragon was, that he needed to use his trump card. Such a pity that the beast got killed by his ultra-high voltage arc cannon. After some time, the smoke cleared out and the fire feather dragon emerged behind. It roared very loudly out of anger. Turns out, it did not die from his attack. The fire feather dragon then searched for its enemy with glaring eyes. All of a sudden, bullets were fired towards the beast. The fire feather dragon did not have a chance to dodge the bullets, but it seems like it endured all the damages dealt to him. The bullets then explode as they collide with the beast. Zhu Sheng and the crew were behind, meaning that they were not the ones who shot those bullets but the person in front of them. He was Han Xing, the Military Academy martial arts special recruit student. Zhu Sheng told Han Xing to stop being so cocky, for if it wasn't for the recent spiritual disturbance in the Shatterstar Lake, the fire feather dragon would have been long crushed by him. The other crew were very happy to see Han Xing. Once again, they told each other that they were saved now. Because of the malfunctions, Han Xing then told Zhu Sheng that the mechanics, have too many limitations and should not be classified as a combat profession. He explained to Zhu Sheng that in the wild, the more monsters they ate, the stronger the spiritual magnetic interference is. And then he told him to just sit there and watch how his brother Han Xing would kill the monster. He aimed his 2 weapons at the fire feather dragon as it approached him. Then he started shooting the monster again continuously. Each bullet hit the monster successfully, and each bullet exploded as it hit the monster. The eyes of the monsters were so bright that it was still visible even when the monster was covered with thick smoke due to the explosion. It glared at Han Xing and then it flew downwards to him. Han Xing then fired his weapon again at the monsters, hoping that it would stop the monster from getting closer to them. In the end, it seemed like his tactics had failed to serve its purpose. The fire feather dragon was still alive and still powerful. It should not be happening. Han Xing's bullets were specially made. He used spiritual energy to control it to have 100% accuracy. It should not be affected by high-temperature turbulence. Soon, he figured out that the fire feather dragon's talent ability was not fire-breathing, high-temperature turbulence, and flame dance. He also noticed that there was something wrong with the fast speed regeneration. The fire feather dragon landed on the ground, making huge cracks on the land. Han Xing moved back a little but was still continuously firing at the monster. He then asked Zhu Sheng to quickly think of a way to support the nearby experts because they were certainly no match for the beast. Zhu Sheng immediately obeyed his order. Han Xing ordered Zhu Sheng one more time to hurry up because he thought that he would not be able to hang on much longer. All of a sudden, Zhu Sheng unexpectedly called for help, and saving that shocked all the crew members. Han Xing asked him what he was doing, and he proudly answered that he was contacting nearby experts. Shouting was the best way to communicate now that the magnetic interference got worse. Han Xing told Zhu Sheng that he would provide him with firepower to cover, so he should bring them to retreat. Zhu Sheng noticed that Han Xing was really in a very serious situation now. All of a sudden, he noticed a spider war vehicle behind him. He then commanded the vehicle to activate human milling mode, which surprised everyone. Meanwhile, Zhu Sheng became a part of the spider war vehicle, connecting his upper body to the vehicle itself. He then asked the crew members to sit on tight and be ready to leave the battlefield. All of them looked for the best position outside the vehicle where they could hold on tight because the vehicle unfortunately doesn't have a co-pilot. Now, Han Xing can go all out fighting against the monster. All of a sudden, someone appeared on the battlefield. She was the glorious Cross/and Shao Giant King. They bravely faced the fire feather dragon so closely, and dealt a significant amount of damage to the monster. Along with her, Wu Wu also showed up with Leopard. She immediately attacked the fire feather dragon with a corrosive claw. The monster roared in pain after receiving those attacks. The 3 women stood fiercely in front of the monster after dealing with their attacks. The crew members looked back and wondered if they really had to run away now that the special recruitment students had gathered. Because of that, Zhu Sheng made them lose grip on the vehicle, and they were all thrown away and left there. The special recruitment students gathered and walked towards the fire feather dragon. Shao Jian King told them that the Tomb Forest's outer area would be open soon, and then she asked them to kill the beast and exchange credit for qualification to freely explore the outer area. Han Xing turned to Zhu Sheng and told him that he could retreat first if he wanted to, since he didn't have a mechanic army. Zhu Sheng answered that he thought he could not defeat the monster too, so he should definitely not leave. Now that they were all gathered, it seemed like the monster would be done for. The fire feather dragon got so angry after all their attacks. Its roaring was so loud that it could literally deafen everyone nearby. Han Xing was worried that his bullets would just be deflected by the turbulence, and because of that, it would not cause any damage anymore. Having said that, Shao Jian King told him that she would try to break it using her sword. She used her glorious cross clash, which was a very powerful move of her. The fire feather dragon had no time to dodge the nearing attack, and so it was hit by Shao Jian King's attack. The impact was so massive, and there was also an explosion after it that blinded everyone who looked. Han Xing was happy now that he thought that Shao Jian King had dealt enough damage to the monster. He then told the others to watch him make his move this time. He then used his guns and fired at the fire feather dragon continuously, using all his bullets. However, the monster saw the bullets coming and it immediately thought of a counterattack for that. It then released a massive fire from its mouth that stopped the bullets from hitting it. Zhu Sheng grinned and realized that his mechanized troops could also be effective since the heat turbulence was already broken. After some time, he then deployed his mechanized troops into the battlefield. Han Xing was happy about what Zhu Sheng did. He was sure that Zhu Sheng had prepared for this. Zhu Sheng felt so proud about what he was about to do. Meanwhile, he asked Wu Wu, Shao Jian King, and Han Xing to get ready to give the beast a fatal blow while he was covering for them. Xiao Jai and King attacked the beast first while the mechanized troops have been firing at the beast for a time now. She used her technique called Sword Wind Storm to deal enough damage to the beast. After that, Leopard and Wu Wu rushed toward the beast to attack and to avoid losing momentum. They gave the beast a nice scratch that definitely caused so much pain. After Wu Wu and Leopard, Han Xing appeared near the beast. He loaded his machine gun and aimed it directly at the fire-feathered dragon. Right after making sure that it would be bullseye, he immediately shot the machine gun at the beast. He successfully hit the beast in the mouth. After all that attack, the fire-feathered dragon fell to the ground. Xiao Jai and King and the others landed on the ground also surrounding the fallen beast. She could not help but wonder while looking at the dead beast. She wondered what kind of beast was it, that the four of them had to cooperate with one another to kill it. Since she was wondering, Zhu Sheng went near the beast to check what was so strange about it. He then pierced the flesh of the beast with the sharp leg of that thing connected to his body. Wu Wu immediately Zhu Sheng to be careful looking into the beast. All of a sudden, the flesh of the monster started changing its form into a vine-like one that circled around Zhu Sheng's legs. The other vine-like flesh even moved up to his head, which scared the hell out of Zhu Sheng. Because of that, he detached that particular leg from being interlocked with the other legs. And then he immediately let go of the leg covered with flesh from his body. They figured that the beast had mutated. Xiao Jai and King was so surprised because she thought that a beast would usually need 6 or more hours to mutate, but that one did so fast. The monster then stomped its foot to the ground as it stood. Now, the fire-feathered dragon has completely mutated into another form. Unfortunately, it looked stronger and more buffed this time. Xiao Jai and King was worried, so she immediately asked Zhu Sheng to retreat quickly. But still, Zhu Sheng did not want to. He told her that he would try to lure the mutated monster away so they could leave first. All of a sudden, the monster released a green energy from its mouth towards Zhu Sheng. It was bad news for Zhu Sheng because it was such a strong corrosiveness. He then leaped above the ground and let go of the vehicle attached to his body down to the monster's mouth, intending for it to be swallowed by the monster. However, the mutated monster made it burst into pieces by blowing a fire again before it even got close enough. After blowing the thing up, the monster glared at Zhu Sheng looking so terrifying. Zhu Sheng could not believe how the monster was still able to do that even though it was in a completely different form. He was thrown afar after the explosion. He thought it was the end for him. He then warned his teammates that the monster they were dealing with at least ranked 3 undying monsters, so they really had to run now. Meng Kao appeared on the battlefield out of nowhere. He got too excited after hearing about the rank of the monster he would possibly be dealing with. He immediately brought out 3 crystal balls before engaging in the battle, namely Fire Flow Crystal, Green Frost Stone, and Dinosaur Crystallization Neverball, which he will try to use to fight against the mutated monster. He then incorporated the 3 crystal balls into his sword. Then he rushed towards the monster ready to fight. He slashed his swords in the wind as he was getting closer and closer to the monster. Not long enough, the other students caught up with Meng Kao. They were all exhausted from keeping up with his speed all this time. Sunny immediately noticed the monster and identified that it was a mutated fire-feathered dragon, which was a rank 3 undying monster. She thought that Meng Kao was no match for it. However, Meng Kao was not discouraged by what Sunya told him. He then told her that there was no need for him to run. Xiao Jai and King just discovered that the person who rushing toward the monster now was the person called Meng Kao. Meng Kao had a plan and he was confident that he would execute it properly. After getting close enough to the monster, he slid his way forward not to be noticed by the monster. Now, he successfully got literally under the monster. From there, he slashed the monster near its neck and its belly using his 2 swords. Because of that attack, the monster roared in pain. Meng Kao continued slashing the monster down its leg as he came down. The monster got angry out of pain, so he glared down Meng Kao with its fiery green eyes. Unfortunately, the wounds that Meng Kao caused to the mutated monster just healed so quickly. Meng Kao smirked, thinking that that was not so bad and that was a really quick recovery. He then swirls his 2 swords from his hands very fast as he walks towards the monster again. Then he told the monster that however fast it was, his swords were still a lot faster. He rushed to the monsters while still swirling his swords, and by doing so, he was able to continuously deal damage to the monster. Xiao Jai and King could not believe what she witnessed. The ghost fire dragon that they had trouble dealing with was restrained by Meng Kao with his dual sword. She then wondered if limit-type flow is really that strong. The mutated fire dragon was injured severely, but it could still stand on its feet, and was ready to attack back. Sunya immediately warned Meng Kao to be careful with the monster's breath as it condensed a ball of energy in its mouth. On the other hand, Meng Kao was actually using himself as bait to exhaust the ghost fire dragon's poison. Meanwhile, Zhu Sheng wondered if Meng Kao could really hold a fight with the fire feather dragon for so long while Wu Wu was busy with her thing in the background. Consequently, the fire feather dragon has finished channeling the poison breath and released it immediately. For a moment, Menkeo just stood there. All of a sudden, he moved very quickly to keep himself from being hit by the poison. Xiao Jian King was so surprised by how fast Menkeo moved. Then after some time, she smelled something good. She wondered what it was. When she looked at her back, she saw Wu Wu cooking meat and she realized the smell came from it. She then asked where did she get that meat from. And then she yelled at Wu Wu telling her that it was not the time to be doing that. However, Wu Wu disagreed with her. Menkeo already came, which means there is nothing else she could do other than to eat food. Xiao Jian King then told her that even though Menkeo's limit-type flow helped a lot, he still needed some help to deal a fatal blow against the fire feather dragon. All of a sudden, Xiao Jian King was alarmed when Sunya shouted in urgency to look in that particular direction. Menkeo was rushing again towards the ghost fire dragon with his sword. They noticed that the ghost fire dragon's flesh and vessels got inflated, and now Menkeo launched from the ground towards the direction of the monster. He lifted his sword as high as he could and aimed at the head of the monster. With the power of Green First Stone, Fire Flow Crystal Boost, and Dinosaur Crystallization Neverball, he used the Demon Slash technique to chop off the monster's head. However, they warned Menkeo to be careful because the monster's abdomen had already mutated, too. The ghost fire dragon's head was already chopped off, yet it was still alive. There were vines coming out from the monster's abdomen that rushed towards Menkeo but only hit the ground, making it to be shattered. Menkeo also rushed towards the ghost fire dragon, aiming his sword at the monster's abdomen. Using the technique called Green Frost Condense, he pierced the sword into the ghost fire dragon's abdomen. After that attack, the ghost fire dragon became frozen cold. Menkeo then pulled out the sword after making sure that the monster would not be able to move. Sunya advised Menkeo to get the flame drake back to base as soon as possible and exchange it for a lot of credits with its high degree of mutation. However, Menkeo explained to her that although the carcass had been frozen with liquid nitrogen, its cells were still alive with the influence of the Bloodmark Roselle. Xiao Jian King asked Menkeo what Bloodmark Roselle he was talking about. He explained that it was the evolved form of the Bloodmark grass. The probability of mutation upon death in monsters parasitized by that fungal creature increases by at least 50%. He then cut the monster using a small sharp knife. After opening the skin of the monster, the flesh vines immediately came out of it. With a few slashes using the same knife he used to cut the skin, he was able to chop the flesh vine into small pieces. Then he placed one part inside a test tube with some liquid inside. While doing so, Han Xing was worried about the danger of harvesting mutated beasts. Menkeo told him not to worry because he knew what he was doing. He read the process of how to harvest such beasts in the books. Meanwhile, Zhu Sheng was wondering where might be the 3 crew members he saved earlier. Zai Feng answered that they saw some people running toward the base on their way there. All of a sudden, Menkeo removed something inside the monster's body from the opening he made. Menkeo and Wu Wu observed the heart-like thing closely. After some time, Wu Wu thinks that it is bad news. Meanwhile, a whole group of different kinds of beasts behind the grass have been watching them all along. Their eyes were glaring as they observed the people. Menkeo soon realized that the Bloodmark Roselles that enhanced the beasts are probably the reason why they could not defend the northern front in his pernicious life. He told the others that the thing he removed from the monster was a fungal nucleus of the Bloodmark Roselle. Bloodmark Roselles are a parasitic fungus. Their fungal nucleus will find a host before dividing into large clusters. After parasitizing the flame drake, a large number of mycelium began to expand from the core and spread over every inch of the flame drake's muscles. The fungal nucleus will create a colony. When the colony becomes too large, the nucleus will initiate mitosis and create a new nucleus and cluster to avoid the death of the host. A newly split nucleus will find a suitable host to parasitize. They will eventually split again only after both nuclei are capable of surviving independently. In other words, there is a similar monster nearby. Menkeo then immediately ordered everyone to run for their lives. All of a sudden, a group of rat-looking beasts revealed themselves and went after everyone who was there. Du and Liam thinks that they are just a mere bunch of rats, so there is no reason to be scared of them, and because of that, Zai Feng dragged him away. Xiao Jian King together with the others ran as fast as they could just to escape the rats who were chasing them. Menkeo noticed that Xiao Jian King was catching her breath already, which is why he asked her if maybe she would be interested in the daredevil to improve her stamina. Xiao Jian King told him that it sounded good. When Menkeo turned his face behind him, he saw Wu Wu looking so weird and exhausted. Meanwhile, Du and Lion accidentally stumbled on a stone on the road. Sunya and Zai Feng immediately noticed what happened to Du and Lion, and were both worried about him. Du and Lion asked for help because his legs got injured. On the other hand, the rats were about to catch up with him. However, they soon figured out that those swamp rats were not really following them. Wu Wu noticed that Meng Kao was not coming with them. Meanwhile, Duan Lion was complaining about Zai Feng, who threw him carelessly after carrying him. Giant Rui, on the other hand, asked him to stop complaining. He was also wondering about how Meng Kao is going to deal with all those swamp rats now. Xiao Giant King noticed Wu Wu on her side. She then urged her to stop whatever she was doing because they really had to hurry and get out of there soon. She could not help herself but be amazed by Meng Kao's sword skills when she saw him doing such crazy sword techniques. Zhu Sheng and Han Xing agreed with her. They both said that his skills were really terrifying. All of a sudden, the swamp rats were flying in all directions while Meng Kao was in the middle surrounded by dead rats. Some swamp rats were still fighting and were very aggressive. They were trying to scare Meng Kao away with their sharp teeth. Meng Kao then swished his sword again and they were dead. He was just casually swinging his sword side by side in a very swift manner, and yet the rats could not get away from it. The swamp rats continuously squeaks as they suffer miserable death at the hands of Meng Kao with his sword techniques. Meng Kao kept on slashing his sword and chopping the rats into pieces. It seemed like the rats were no match against him, even though there was a large number of them who were fighting with him at the same time. All of a sudden, the chopped off parts of the rats grew a vine-like flesh that moved like snakes, just like what happened to the fire-feathered dragon. Meanwhile, Han Xing and Zhu Sheng did not like how they were being underestimated because, in the past, it was others who were in that position of being dumbfounded. Wu Wu, on the other hand, told Leopard that the punishment was done. Having said all that, Xiao Giant King then asked them to take action immediately. She then urged everyone to show those rats who was the boss. Duan Lion and Zai Feng were both surprised after seeing those three rushing back toward Meng Kao all of a sudden. Duan Lion then asked Zai Feng, who was still carrying him, to put him down at that very moment. He then grabbed a solution from his things and then he opened it. He told him that he didn't care what the others would think as he injected the solution into his neck. He wanted to fight along with those 5 freaks for the sake of not hurting his pride by running away while seeing the others fight. He then rushed back to where Meng Kao was currently fighting the rats along with those 4 whom he called freaks. Jiang Rui, Zai Feng, and Sun Yu were left there, but they all agreed to go with the others. They all rushed back as fast as they could. Duan Lion even grinned, showing that he was not feeling terrified by those swamp rats. Everyone was ready to fight along with Meng Kao. Meanwhile, the rats seemed to be mutating into another form. The shattered parts started connecting with the other shattered parts with the vine-like flesh. The small swamp rats earlier had grown so much now that they merged their bodies with the others. Xiao Jian King was so surprised as she looked at how the rats somehow built another entity by combining their shattered parts. She wondered what happened with those rats. Now each rat has 2 heads and 4 hands with very sharp claws attached to a very huge body. Duan Lion, who was grinning earlier, now could not help but ask Meng Kao to come up with a plan to deal with those rats because he won't be able to last long in that situation. Meng Kao thought that his idea was correct, that the swamp rats had been parasitized by the fungus, which means there is no end to them if the fungal nucleus would not be killed first. He stopped at one point and stared at the rats for some minutes. On the other hand, Duan Lion was crying out loud while calling Meng Kao when he noticed that he was doing nothing, and then he urged him again to think of a plan for the situation. Meng Kao shouted back at him and told him to keep his silence because he was actually thinking of a way. Meng Kao knew that using his eyes only would not be enough for this. He knew he had to rely on his hearing and sense of smell to find the one that was commanding those rats. The swamp rats then rushed towards Meng Kao as he stood there in the middle of the field. Each of them was eager to get a hold of him as if they had the same thoughts. All of a sudden, Meng Kao finally spotted the rat that he was looking for. It was the white-colored rat among others. It was the creature commanding those rats. Meng Kao was so happy that he managed to figure out which one was which. Immediately after confirming to himself that it was the rat, he rushed towards it and told the others to just hold on. He slashed all the other rats that he came across on his way towards it using his sword. It seems like no one was safe with Meng Kao's unbelievable sword skills. Finally, the white rat appeared among the other rats. The white rat was significantly larger than the others. Meng Kao immediately launched from the ground towards that rat. He discovered by the looks of it that that white rat was really commanding those other rats. With that in mind, he inferred that the fungal nucleus must be inside of its body. With a swift and practiced motion, he unsheathed his gleaming sword and brought it down in a powerful arc, cleaving through the rat's fur with a resounding, echoing slash. Right after doing that, he positioned his sword in a defensive cross, channeling his inner power for the legendary demon-crushing slash. With his mighty demon-crushing slash, he struck down the rat, ending its threat once and for all. The rat's body had been shattered into pieces and blood scattered, confirming its defeat. Duan Lion's face broke into an exuberant smile, and the joy in his eyes was unmistakable, unable to be hidden, as he witnessed the heroic feat accomplished by Meng Kao. However, Menkeo seemed bothered even after defeating the rat. He wondered why that rat king was too weak. Maybe it was not the fungal nucleus host. He thought to himself that the real host of the fungal nucleus, who was commanding all the other rats, was a crafty fellow. In an unexpected turn of events, a wave of rats suddenly surged forward, sending a shiver of alarm. Amidst the chaos, Sunya urgently alerted Menkeo to look at his back. Luckily, Menkeo managed to successfully dodge the attack for him, thanks to Sunya. In a sudden, fluid motion, Menkeo twirled the pair of swords gripped in each of his hands, a mesmerizing display of deadly grace, ready to defend against the encroaching enemy. He then bent over to dodge another attack and thought that the situation, indeed, getting a lot worse. The leader of a species usually is of the same family, but for this one, it was not the case. He could not believe the leader of the swamp rats was a golden shiver. However, if they encounter their predator, the golden slither, they may form a strange symbiotic relationship. All of a sudden, the golden slither started to move in a weird manner as if it was arranging itself to its best form as it hissed. The swamp rats will periodically offer up fat and delicious members of their colony in exchange for the survival of the majority. When the blood mark Roselle encountered a rat colony ruled by a golden slither, it was obvious which one to pick as a host. Menkeo was taken aback, his surprise evident in his widened eyes, as he had never expected that these rats would yield to the allure of a golden slither. The thing is, he already used up a lot of energy to kill that white-flamed rake and also wasted the last bit of his inner energy on the Rat King. He was confused and he could not think of what to do next. He doesn't want to exit the stage as soon as he starts the show. Meanwhile, Woo Woo and the others are all being held up by those rats, so he cannot rely on them to assist him with his situation. He then thought to himself that it now all depends on whether they get there first or he loses the battle first. Menkeo swiftly wielded his sword to sever the vine-like tendrils of flesh that were rushing rapidly toward him. His frustration and anger boiled over as he realized that this golden slither was so powerful. His breath grew labored as he struggled to evade the relentless attacks of the golden slither. Every dodge he did was taking a toll on his stamina. All of a sudden, he heard a nearing sound of hissing vine-like tendrils of flesh on his ear getting louder. Because of that, he immediately crossed his swords as a defense, and by doing that, he successfully protected himself from being pierced. Unfortunately, the vines immediately changed their direction, which Menkeo had not calculated well enough, and that is bad news for him. Menkeo finds the golden slither to be so annoying as it circles its vines on both his hands. As the golden slither attempted to pull him towards its grasp, Menkeo planted his feet firmly in a determined stance, refusing to be drawn in. Even though Menkeo had honed his daredevil, it was essential to remember that these abilities did not grant him boundless strength and inner energy. Sadly, he chose the wrong target since the beginning, and now it is too late to step back. A doubt lingered in Menkeo's mind, as he wondered if this moment might be the right time to consider relinquishing the battle. Suddenly, an enigmatic object, bearing a pointed tip at the end of a long crimson chain, began to whirl around the golden slither. The mysterious object continued its dance, coiling around the golden slither until the creature was completely ensnared, immobilized by the constricting chain. Menkeo then wondered if this object circling around the golden slither was the one called the Crimson Tail. When Menkeo raised his gaze, he beheld an image in the likeness of a phoenix, its radiant form hovering above, casting an aura of awe and reverence. He immediately realized that it was, indeed, a phoenix. And the man in front of it who was in control of the Crimson Tail was no other than Senior Lin, the Weeping Slayer. Menkeo couldn't restrain himself from uttering a heartfelt thank you, filled with gratitude and respect as he saw Senior Lin, for he knew that he was saved now. Menkeo was in awe as he realized that the person he had always looked up to had arrived to rescue them all. He is also the only handsome guy that he doesn't have, he said. Xiao Jian King thinks that this is great now that they have a sky stage fighter fighting on their side. She thinks that they are going to win the fight. On the other hand, Wu Wu, who was, again, busy eating, thought that the sky stage fighter that Xiao Jian King had been talking about sounded tasty. As Senior Lin tugged on his crimson chain, he urged everyone to step back, his voice resolute and commanding, ensuring their safety. Then, with a swift and practiced motion, Senior Lin unleashed his formidable technique, known as the Shadow Dance Dragon Dance. As the eclipse calamity unfolded, the surroundings were bathed in the resplendent flames of a magnificent phoenix, a breathtaking spectacle that left all witnesses in awe. The golden slither did not have any chance to retreat in the hands of Senior Lin. For that reason, it was burned alive with the mighty fire of the phoenix. After some time, everything seemed burnt. The surroundings were filled with the haunting sound of ashes swishing and echoing. As a result, Menkeo found himself liberated from the clutches of the golden slither, for the creature had met its demise in the wake of the powerful Lin Chuan. He was so happy to witness how Senior Lin Chuan fought and proved to himself why he could freely fly through the sky like a sky stage fighter despite being just an Earth stage. Following the dramatic spectacle, Senior Lin Chuan descended gracefully to the ground. He then took back his weapon mid-air. He swung his weapon from side to side, his unwavering gaze fixed upon the swamp rats, showing a clear message of readiness and determination in his stance. He then told everyone that they could come out now since it was over now. He said those phrases in a very cool way that made Menkeo fall head over his heels even more. He immediately approached Senior Lin as soon as he got an opportunity to do so. He told him that it felt so nice that he met him finally. Surprisingly, Senior Lin knew he was Menkeo from the Sky Bliss Garden and that they were neighbors. He then told him to rest up and just talk in the car later. All of a sudden, they heard a rumbling sound near the area. It is the caterpillar tracker. Lin Chuan told Menkeo that those are the vermilion dragons and they are probably going to chew him out again. The crew quickly got out of the vehicle hoping to see anything that they could harvest. The one who seemed to be the leader of the group even told the other to keep an eye out for the nucleus of the bloodmark roselle. However, the crew members don't think that there is anything left to harvest in the area since Lin Chuan has burnt everything to a crisp. On the other hand, Menkeo was holding a container containing something that resembled the nucleus of the bloodmark roselle. And it was, indeed, the nucleus. The crew members stared at Menkeo for some time and wondered, which made Menkaho feel weird, so he asked them what was the matter. They could not believe that Menkeo was able to harvest the nucleus of the bloodmark roselle amidst the chaos happening. Menkeo just smiled and told them that he just did what he had to do. All of a sudden, Lin Chuan told Menkeo that he saw how he killed the flame drake and how he fought off those rats. He realized that Ms. Lai was right, that you are a really great student. Everyone could not believe what Senior Lin Chuan told them, especially when he told them that Ms. Lai had been singing praises for Menkeo, telling him that he was better than him. Menkeo could not help but feel very honored after hearing that. He even thought that maybe Ms. Lai had a crush on him. When he came back to his mind, Menkeo told Lin Chuan that he had been admiring him for a long time now. He was in elementary school when he got accepted into the Agri-Use martial arts department. However, Lin Chuan told Menkeo to stop praising him because it was making him blush. Menkeo had no idea that his idol would be this easygoing. He even told Menkeo that they were brothers in arm and that he might treat him to a fancy meal when he visits home. Half a month later at East Lake Base, under the watchful guidance of Lin Chuan, Menkeo diligently practiced the art of the crescent cleave. Each swing of each of his weapons was a step closer to mastering the skill. Lin Chuan couldn't help but wear a proud smile as he watched Menkeo's rapid grasp of the technique, a mentor's joy welling up inside him at the sight of his student's quick progress. Menkeo attributed his swift progress to the two remarkable chains crafted from the vertebrae of a Class 5 super beast, which Lin Chuan had generously gifted to him. However, with a wise and knowing expression, Lin Chuan advised Menkeo that weapons are just tools, and they should still focus more on their inner energy during training. He then told Menkeo that he had to go now since he had already spent a month resting at Starcrush Lake and he was now itching to fight some monsters at Tombstone Forest. He also advises Menkeo to not worry about him because he feels like being in the wilderness is really in his blood and staying in Draken only makes him feel hollow or empty inside. Pondering Lin Chuan's words, Menkeo hesitated for a moment before gathering the courage to ask his mentor a candid question if he has PTSD, which Senior Lin Chuan didn't like. In the middle of their conversation, a distant vehicle's roar disrupted their quiet dialogue, prompting Menkeo and Lin Chuan to turn their heads in surprise and curiosity. The source of the sound became clear as the Dina Sky Air Fortress passed overhead. Menkeo was so marveled at the magnetic levitation technology that kept the fortress afloat. Suddenly, Menkeo's gaze fixed on the emblem adorning the aircraft's side. He then realized that it was the logo of the dynasty. He was so amazed by how it looked, giving off such a majestic aura. Dynasty is one of the most powerful forces in Draken, and Menkeo thinks that it would be great if he could get to know some of them through Lin Chuan. With a thunderous roar, the vehicle made a ground-shaking landing, a resounding bang echoing through the surroundings, leaving no doubt of its arrival. Suddenly, the door of the vehicle began to creak open, revealing a glimpse of what lay within. Once the walkway was in place, a brilliant red carpet unfolded, which made Menkeo think that it was too dramatic a way to make an entrance. Out of the blue, a girl adorned in red high heels gracefully walked upon the vibrant red carpet, her every step exuding an air of elegance. With her striking purple hair and a face of remarkable beauty. Her name is Elvicia, one of the third-generation heirs of the dynasty group. All of a sudden, her face transformed into a vivid shade of red as soon as she saw the thing or the person she had been longing for. Indeed, it was Lin Chuan. She immediately rushed towards him and told him that she actually came to pick him up. Lin Chuan got a bit awkward for what Ms. LV did suddenly, and so he asked her to settle down first. He tried to introduce Menkeo to her, but she immediately cut him while speaking, saying that she already knew he was his assistant, and then asked Lin Chan why he didn't tell him she was his best friend. Ms. Elvicia kept on blabbering those words to Lin Chuan, which made Menkeo feel a bit sick of her and her presence alone. Inside the air fortress, the crew members were all busy doing their things. There were 3 guys talking. They were having a fistfight while commending each other about how good their mechanical arms were. On the other hand, a woman with mohawk hair told the guys that those arms were just purely decorative as she chewed his bubblegum, acting so unbothered. In a sudden and surprising interruption, a loud clap reverberated, causing them to cease their activity and turn their attention toward the unexpected sound. A collective sense of curiosity covered them as they wondered about the significance of the sudden clap. Some of them even got a bit angry about it. By then, Ms. LV told them that all of their team members were already there. Next up, she will tell them about their next target and why she called upon experts from different fields. She then continued speaking. As they all know, the main purpose of the battle is to explore and exploit the mineral deposits all the way from Starkish Lake throughout the mountain range. However, the number of bloodmark roselles there is growing. With the use of some samples of it, Dynasky's lab was able to identify trace amounts of ruby jade inside it. Then she presented Menkeo to everyone and she told them that it was all his work. Because of him, they were able to get their hands on such a perfect bloodmark sample. The guys replied that ruby jade can stimulate the evolution and the variation of the fungus from Starcrush Lake to Tombstone Forest. Sure, there will be a lot of ruby jade ore veins lying there. The Mohawk girl suddenly spoke. She said that ruby jade is extremely valuable, and this information is likely not only known to them. Ms. LV then revealed to them that she is actually a feeler, a natural-born individual who is extremely sensitive to inner energy. Mohawk girl was astonished as she received the revelation, her emotions a mixture of shock and wonder. She knew that having a feeler on the team would make the mission a lot easier. She also invited the Weeping Slayer Lin Chuan to join their operation. He doesn't only possess the formidable combat power of a 4-star exalted, he knows this land better than anyone else. Lastly, she also invited all of them who are experts in their different fields whom she carefully handpicked. Certainly, she thinks that they are better than her original team at Dynasky. Now that they have senior hunters, elite mechanics, and a gemstone expert, Ms. LV believes that under comparable circumstances, her team is absolutely invincible. In response to her encouraging and persuasive words, a chorus of applause and cheers erupted from her fellow team members, their enthusiasm echoing through the surroundings. On the other hand, Menkeo told Lin Chuan that he thinks that there would be a lot of parasitized monsters near it since they rely on ruby jade ore to evolve. However, Lin Chuan told Menkeo that it is very unlikely to happen since the evolution stimulated by the ruby jade will also cause them to have difficulty surviving in the long term. In the middle of their conversation, Ms. LV interrupted them and asked Senior Lin Chuan if she could have a minute with Menkeo because she needed his help with something. Lin Chuan nodded in agreement, allowing them to have their discussion, and then he departed to inspect the ongoing preparations. Ms. LV asked Menkeo if he could introduce her to a reliable harvester from the East Lake base. They don't need to be very strong, but it's better if they have some combat power. Turns out, she was asking Menkeo about this matter because the 2 experienced harvesters she originally contacted had something going on, and they could not make it. With that in mind, Menkeo then asked Ms. LV what she meant when she said that they don't have to be very strong. She then explained that the environment is enclosed so the magnetic field around it will be easily disrupted. In that case, a 1 or 2-star Exalta will be a great use than a 4-star like Lin. She then urges Menkeo that if humanity wants to achieve a complete victory, they need to pay a high price. But they could end the battle at the northern front with the use of ruby jade ores. Menkeo thought that the failure of the battle at the northern front in his previous life was probably related to the resonance of the underground energy veins. However, it is uncertain whether Ms. LV's trip is related to the success or the failure of the battle at the northern front. He must not miss this opportunity, or else history will just repeat itself again. However, he made it clear to Ms. LV that he was unaware of any 1-star harvester who could surpass his strength and abilities. Ms. LV then told him that after she checked his background, she immediately knew that he was the perfect candidate for this mission, but she didn't think that his instructors would allow him to do this. Menkeo knew that she was trying to make him volunteer himself, and yet she still put up an act. Still, he thinks that locating the ruby jade ore veins is important for the battle at the northern front. He then told her that he would gladly talk to his instructors about the matter. Actually, Faction, Woo Woo, and the others all fought in the Tombstone Forest, which was just as dangerous as this mission. Ms. LV couldn't contain her happiness upon hearing his statement. She also reassured Menkeo that his compensation would be more than sufficient, given his connection to Lin Chuan. On the contrary, Lin Chuan advised Meng Kao that he should not volunteer himself to join. It is known that Ms. LV just loves taking advantage of people like them, which puzzled Meng Kao. He then explained that when he said people like them, he meant people like them who don't have any backgrounds or family to back them up. She is certainly using them for her own good. Because of that, Meng Kao tells Lin Chuan that he doesn't care much about those details. He just wants to fight alongside him, and he also wants to have a chance to see the legendary underground infernal beast. Upon hearing Meng Kao's response, Lin Chuan let out a weary sigh, his thoughts and concerns weighing heavily on his mind. In a solemn tone, he emphasized to Meng Kao that he would undoubtedly come to regret this choice he made today. Outside, the relentless rumble of thunder persisted, casting a foreboding atmosphere of dread. 3 days later, at the Tombstone Forest's forward base, all of a sudden, a silhouette of a woman along with 2 other men appeared as the entrance slowly opened. They were Ms. LV, Lin Chuan, and Meng Kao. Ms. LV was so happy that day. Some people have already arrived at the forward base, and now they are going to meet them first. Among the people on the forward base, their attention was fixed on 2 individuals. The guy with a firm stance and the woman wearing glasses with pink hair. Ms. LV went straight to the man and faced him so closely. She then told the man that he was too late, and that many exploration teams had already left 2 days ago. She knew that those idiots went the wrong way, but her only task was to make sure that he would not get eaten by the beast. The man looked at Meng Kao and told him that he should not put himself in any danger because he would not dare risk his life trying to save him if that happened. Meng Kao replied in a very confident tone that he didn't need to worry about him because he could take care of himself. The guy seemed to not take it so well, and so he told Lin Chuan that he better keep an eye out for his pet, pertaining to Meng Kao. However, Lin Chuan just told him that it would be better if he just focused on his job instead of trying to intimidate people who want to do their assigned task. In response to Lin Chuan's words, the man turned his back and huffed in annoyance. After the man left them alone, Lin Chuan told Meng Kao that that guy was Wan Dao, the captain of the Razor Squad. He is also a 4-star like him with a strong combat power. While the 2 are talking silently with each other, they suddenly hear Ms. LV call their names as if she has something important to tell them. She introduced the woman with pink hair named Professor Yi. She is an expert studying the bloodmark Roselle, and who will play a very significant role in their mission. After a few minutes, Wan Bao abruptly commanded Ms. LV to make her team move the necessary supplies and equipment onto the mule now, since they had to depart as soon as possible. Ms. LV agreed with a sign of anger on her face. In the Tombstone Forest, some people have been roaming for some time now. As they continued their walk, the constant rumbling of thunder accompanied them. All of a sudden, a man informed the others that there were vines everywhere and it is getting harder to walk. Wan Bao told him to pull himself together as he tried to explain what those are, but he was not able to finish his sentence. His expression grew serious, his face flushing with realization as he comprehended what those vines really were. They were viper vines. With a swift change in demeanor, he urgently cautioned everyone to be vigilant and on high alert. All of a sudden, the viper vines started to move at a rapid speed. Wan Dao issued a stern warning, advising them to avoid touching the vines because they are extremely poisonous, as he demonstrated their danger by swiftly slashing one with his sword. He also told them to stay alert, and that they should protect the non-combatants. And then he warned them to be watchful of their feet and heads and asked them never to let the viper vines get near them. On the other hand, Ms. LV shouted out a directive, stressing the need to prioritize the protection of the experts and mineral prospectors above all else. All of a sudden, something that resembles a vine or a snake and has a very wide mouth which was covered with sharp teeth emerged from the ground and rushed toward Ms. LV. Because of this sighting, Lin Chuan quickly alarmed Ms. LV to look under her feet as he threw his chains towards the beast, which is, apparently, a level 2 super beast, the branch-toothed boa. It is not a monster that a feeler like Ms. Elvicia can handle, and that is why he immediately did something to get her out of her situation. Nevertheless, he harbored doubts about his ability to rescue her, as she had ventured dangerously close to the gigantic boa. He thinks that he won't make it. All of a sudden, Meng Kao appeared in front of Ms. LV right before the branch-toothed boa was about to have Ms. LV. Meng Kao then explained that what they were doing was useless and that the branch-toothed boa and the viper vines had a symbiotic relationship. Viper vines come from the viper vine tree. Hence, the only thing that would stop the viper vines from coming at them is cutting the viper vine tree. But the thing is, which tree is which? Meng Kao then brought out his flashlight and directed the light on a tree from afar. He told them that if he was not mistaken, the viper vine tree was the 9th tree from that side, the one he was pointing at with the searchlight. It's camouflaged to look like a crooked pine tree. Wan Dao took Meng Kao's word for it and rushed toward where Meng Kao was pointing at. He planned to destroy the heart of the viper vines, which is the tree, along with all its colonies. Wan Dao approached his task with great eagerness, determined to carry it out with utmost dedication. Upon reaching the tree, he swung his sword with all his might, unleashing a powerful strike that cleaved through the woody trunk. Now that the tree had been chopped down to the ground, the vines slowly intertwined with it began to wither and die simultaneously. The vines seemed like they went with the wind as their thick bodies earlier had become too thin to even notice. Wan Dao's crew were all happy with what he did. They commended him for it as they showed him how glad they were for him. Then he asked Meng Kao how was he able to determine that that was the tree among others. Meng Kao then told him that he did it through his daredevil ability and his strong sense of smell for blood. Wan Dao was unsure about the daredevil style, but what he was sure about was that Meng Kao really did a great job. After dealing with the threat, Wan Dao swiftly advised everyone to leave the forest in an instant, for it could grow even more unpredictable if they stayed. However, Meng Kao suddenly asked him to stop while he was about to walk away. Wan Dao asked him if he noticed something again, and Meng Kao said that he did. He noticed that there was something under the bushes he was pointing at. Wan Dao's curiosity got the better of him. With his sword, he carefully moved the foliage aside to reveal the mystery that lay beneath. His eyes widened in shock as the bushes gave way, revealing an unexpected and startling sight hidden beneath. It was the blood mark roselle. Meng Kao explained that it was a hatchling colony that had not found a host yet. His heart pounded with fear as he couldn't help but imagine the horrifying outcomes that might await him if he dared to touch the blood mark roselle hidden beneath the bushes. With that thought in mind, he suddenly became determined to learn Meng Kao's daredevil thinking that learning it would prevent his imagination from coming to life. From a distance, Meng Kao extended his finger, indicating the direction from which he suspected the blood mark roselle originated, since the red plants run through that direction. Simultaneously, Ms. LV sensed a huge amount of inner energy gushing from the ground in front of them like a volcanic eruption. She thinks that must be where the mineral veins were. The relentless rain showed no signs of relenting. Amidst the downpour, they unload boxes one by one onto the drenched ground. Meanwhile, Ms. LV expressed her gratitude to Meng Kao. Meng Kao told her not to mention it because anyone would have done the same thing to save her. However, Ms. LV was not talking about that but about him tracing the blood mark roselle. After talking to Meng Kao, Professor Yi called her attention, saying that she wanted to have a word with her, raising the tablet she was holding. She then showed her the result of the analysis of the sample they took from the fungal strain of the blood mark roselle. It shows that it grew out from the bottom of the lake and not on land. Ms. LV was glad to hear that from Professor Yi, which means her assumptions were correct. She then ordered Wan Dao to gather his men and asked them to bring the big boys over there. These were the latest crystal bombs developed by the Vermilion Dragons. These bombs are capable of emitting very powerful shockwaves. The men carefully lifted the boxes of bombs as Wan Dao told them that they should protect their eardrums, teeth, and organs with their inner energy when moving those boxes. Ms. LV explained to Meng Kao that they were placing the shockwave collector and depth charges into the water to get an accurate reading of the landscape at the bottom of the lake. Although the blood mark roselle likes dark and humid environments, it can't survive in water for a long period, and it is also impossible for it to grow out of the bottom of the lake for no reason. In simple words, Ms. LV thinks that there must be an underground stream at the bottom of the lake. And at the end of that, there's a large underground cavity that contains fresh oxygen and veins of easily extractable ruby jade. Wan Dao gathered the attention of everyone. He then asked them to protect their organs and, more importantly, their eardrums. They must brace themselves from the shockwave to come. He then counted backward from 3 up to 1, bringing both excitement and fright to everyone, and then finally he detonated the bombs by pressing the button in the controller. Subsequently, a colossal explosion shook the surroundings, sending shockwaves through the air and casting a veil of chaos over the scene. Ms. LV and Meng Kao both struggled to conceal the agony that the shockwave had inflicted upon them. Their expressions seemed to be contorted with pain as they covered their ears. Meng Kao then got curious about what happened next. He thought that those bombs were so powerful, yet they only managed to kill those low-level monsters. Following the explosion, Ms. LV's excitement surged, prompting her to command Meng Kao to go and see the contents of the shockwave collector picked up with urgency. However, Meng Kao stopped her. Seeing that there are so many carcasses after the detonation, he thinks that there's something strange in that lake, so they need to be cautious. Hearing Meng Kao's theory, Wan Dao could not help but ask if they were saying that there was a big monster that survived that explosion, which Lin Chuan was also thinking so. All of a sudden, a massive fish burst from the water's surface, its presence looming over them. They then figured that it was a level 5 super beast, the Manticora fish. Lin Chuan immediately ordered Wan Dao to get his men and follow him to the beast. Wan Dao, on the other hand, was so eager to do so. In a daring move, Lion Chuan leaped through the air, hurling his chains toward the monstrous beast as he soared above the ground. While having the beast chained up, He immediately commanded Wan Dao to quickly restrain it and warned him to never let it get back into the water. With unwavering confidence, Wan Dao followed Lin Chuan's command and launched into action, joining the effort to defeat the manticora fish. Without hesitation, he swiftly swung his sword, aiming to strike down the gigantic fish. He wanted to kill it right away for the mission to go on without halting and waiting any longer. His sword sliced through the flesh so smoothly which created a vulnerable opening in the manticora fish's skin. Wan Dao's men attacked the super beast too. Following his command, they were all leaping through the air as Lin Chuan did. Meng Kao was so amazed by the scene. He figured that they all were Sky Stage Overbreaker users. All of their spears pierced the manticora fish's skin, causing it to have a very painful death. Meng Kao then thought that it was the real Overbreaker, that it really lives up to its name as the strongest technique in Draken. After all the attacks, the manticora fish seemed to be shattered in a cellular level of destruction. He then realized that his decision to join them was the right thing to do. He sure will learn a lot from the 3 Sky Stage powerhouses battling together in a battle. Indeed, it is still impossible to look for the charging, freeze, and cool down phases of Overbreaker users with the current Daredevil since it is still in the budding phase, but who cares? All of a sudden, Ms. LV figured something out as she stared at the findings on her tablet. She was right about the existence of an underground stream down there. However, Lin Chuan advised her that they should be more careful after the occurrence of the manticora fish. He thinks that there are more dangerous creatures at the bottom of the lake. Despite what Lin Chuan said, Ms. LV was still so over the clouds as she showed him the map of the lakes underneath, confirming the idea of an underground stream down under. She then urges Lin Chuan to not stop at this point since they are getting closer to what they want. Also, she thinks that there is nothing more dangerous than the manticora fish. After saying all that to Lin Chuan, she ordered everyone to move quickly and bring the diving equipment with them because they were now going into the lake to get their treasures. She gave her orders to everyone. 4 people will share one diving device, and their task is to find the cracks leading to the underground stream as stealthy as possible. With an air of urgency, she prompted everyone to ready themselves for a dive, inquiring if there were any last-minute questions before they took the plunge. Lin Chuan told Meng Kao that they should go with the other. He also warned him that they should stay on their toes when they got there as the lake might contain other beasts. Meng Kao nodded in agreement, assuring Lin Chuan that he comprehended all the precautions and was ready to proceed. They were now 13 meters below and the oxygen and blood pressure were normal. Meng Kao then announced that they had found the cracks that led to the underground stream. He asked them to follow the information on their tactical watches and regroup up ahead. All of a sudden, someone tapped Meng Kao's shoulder to get his attention. It was Lin Chuan. He told Meng Kao that something was not quite right, and so he warned him to stay sharp. Meng Kao understood his agitation. Drawing near the underwater crack, they collectively scoured the surroundings, hunting for any resources or clues that might help them in their endeavor. They looked into the crack as soon as they reached it. Miss LV commended everyone for all they did and told them that they were now one step closer to their treasure. However, the crack is too narrow for the diving gear to go through. Miss LV then suggested that they need to hurry up and finish the mission before their oxygen reserves are depleted. At that moment, the drones have been reserved by someone. If everything goes smoothly, the preliminary exploration can be completed within 2 minutes, he explained. Everyone watched the drone as it went through the crack. While doing that, Lin Chuan suddenly asked Meng Kao if he felt something strange. Meng Kao then told him that for some reason, he felt uneasy whenever he looked down at the bottom. Wan Dao asked Lin Chuan to make Miss LV see sense because, without the logistical supply, it will be very difficult for them to continue the exploration. However, it seemed like Lin Chuan could not do anything to persuade Miss LV because if he did, their exploration operation would not have happened at all. On the other hand, Miss LV told them that they now have the results. The drones have reached the exit of the underground stream. They looked at the results. Just as what they all expected, the findings show that there is a huge underground space up there and plenty of fresh air to breathe. The crew member told Miss LV that the specific route and the scouting results have been uploaded to her terminal, and everyone could see it too through their tactical watches. Out of nowhere, a swirling vortex materialized in the water, catching them off guard. The object spun in chaotic disarray, caught within the unpredictable whirlpool. Wan Dao urgently cautioned everyone to step back with a sense of urgency, as he had spotted another monstrous threat looming nearby. He then stressed the need for a hasty retreat, urging them to escape from the area without delay. On the other hand, Miss LV asked everyone to go into the underground stream since the stream is rugged and narrow, and the beast at the bottom of that lake can't get in. Lin Chuan then urges everyone to go ahead as Miss LV said. Wan Dao and he will stay there for a bit to cover the rear for their safe escape. Wan Dao recognized that they faced yet another manticora fish as he slashed it using his sword, a formidable adversary they had to confront. However, the manticora fish did not even recognize Wen Dao. Instead, it swam up towards the exploration team, and so they asked them to get away from the diving gear. Regrettably, they were not swift enough to distance themselves from the diving equipment. The manticora fished and destroyed the other equipment using its mouth and teeth. Out of nowhere, a rope-like object began to whip through the water, where the manticora fish is located. The rope snaked into the fish's mouth, preventing it from biting one of the crew members. In light of the escalating situation, Manhwa swiftly instructed all the non-combatants to evacuate as fast as they possibly could as he pulled the chain sword towards him. Unfortunately, he can't use his full strength while he's under the water. It seemed like the manticora fish was about to get free from the chain sword. The fish proved to be incredibly agile underwater, and it also has a lot of advantages against them. Manhwa thinks that it is completely different from fighting above the water. Manhwa found himself in a tough struggle. Lion Chuan, concerned for his safety, asked Manhwa if he wished to meet his end, extending a hand to assist him. The other are now surrounding the manticora fish, and everyone are being too careful to attack as they knew the manticora fish might be stronger against them there underwater. Meanwhile, Lion Chuan asked Manhwa to follow Miss LV and the others into the underground stream. They will soon follow right after they stop the beast. Miss LV advised Wen Dao to be careful since it is going to take more than a few Sky Stage Exalta to take down a manticora fish while underwater. The combat personnels are having a hard time figuring out how to deal with the beast. They could not even construct a magnetic energy field as it kept on stirring up the water. Meanwhile, Miss LV asked everyone to move quickly one at a time. The faster they move, the more likely it is for the Exalta that protected them to escape safely. All of a sudden, Manhwa asked Miss LV to go follow the others escape safely. He wanted to go and assist his brother Lin Chu and the others on dealing with the manticora fish. Miss LV and Professor Yi think for some time but could not say any word after Manhwa told them what he planned on doing. Finally, Miss LV allowed him to do as he said, but she asked him to be totally careful because Lin Chuan might kill her if anything happens to him. After hearing that he will take extra care for himself, Professor Yi then told him to go and take his equipment and get out of there quickly. Manhwa agreed and took his equipment that he needed among others. After doing that, he then went straight towards where the others are. Manhwa's heart swelled with pride and excitement as he prepared to join forces with the other Exalta, relishing the prospect of this collective battle. Meanwhile, while everyone was fighting against the manticora fish, Lin Chuan issued a direct order to Wen Dao, instructing him to lead his team in a swift retreat with a sense of urgency. He asked him this while keeping the manticora fish still with his chains. On the other hand, Wen Dao appeared puzzled and uncertain in response to the abrupt command. In response to Wen Dao's reaction, Lin Chuan explained that he was the swiftest among them, and as a result, he would stay behind to confront the beast while the others retreated. All of a sudden, Lin Chuan unfortunately and abruptly clashed against the manticora fish. He did all that he could so he wouldn't be injured due to the impact of the collision. After that, Lin Chuan held the manticora fish's gigantic tail and circled it with chains. He circled around the manticora fish, maneuvering as if attempting to bind or restrain the creature. Before they made their way out, Wen Dao exchanged a nod with Lin Chuan and told him they owed him one, silently signifying the unspoken agreement that a favor had been earned. And then he asked him to go. On his way, he saw Manhwa, and so he told him that he should come inside too since he would not be of any help if he stayed. But Manhwa did not and just asked him to go first. He then told Lin Chuan that everyone had already evacuated. On the other hand, Lin Chuan seemed to be having difficulty because the water was disrupting the magnetic energy field. Due to that occurrence, he was not able to use his full strength. He also theorized that if that goes on, the manticora fish will soon gather enough strength to get away from being held up. And just as he was thinking about it, the manticora fish started gathering its strength and energy. After channeling enough, the manticora fish unleashed a powerful energy from its mouth, making the chains to be removed from its body, and for Lin Chuan to immediately withdraw. Lin Chuan swam as fast as he could to get away from the manticora fish who was following him. Its mouth was widely opened as if it was ready to swallow him whole the moment it caught up. The manticora fish tried to bite him, thinking that its distance from Lin Chuan was enough, but luckily, Lin Chuan quickly got rid of the fish in an instant. Turns out, Manhwa pulled him towards him, which is why he was able to quickly dodge the manticora fish's bite. Lin Chuan recovered quickly from what happened and now was swimming towards Manhwa at his own pace, and at will. Behind him was the manticora fish who was still eager to swallow them whole. Its eyes were glaring, which would bring terror to anyone who looks at them. Manhwa then told Lin Chuan to hurry up and get the hell out of the manticora fish's sight. The manticora fish then swam faster than it used to, which caused it to crash on the floor underground. The impact was so intense, making the underwater floor rumble, and the rocks shattered into pieces. Meanwhile, the other members had already reached the underground stream exit. With a slow and deliberate pace, they emerged from the water one by one. The moment she stepped out of the water, Miss LV wasted no time and immediately ordered the men to prepare the mining equipment because they would start the exploration right away. Wan Dao, on the other hand, demanded Miss LV for a brief explanation about something before they continued with the exploration. Miss LV then turned her face to look at Wan Dao and inquired about the nature of the explanation he was seeking. Without hesitation, Wan Dao told her straightforwardly what he wanted to know. He wanted to know why she gave up the supplies. Aside from that, he also wanted to know about her plans for later. Miss LV answered him that if she had not evacuated the logistics personnel, they might have been inside the manticora fish's belly right at that time. She also explained that the bombs had already weakened the structures of the lake's bottom part. She would never risk losing the only entrance to that underground stream by widening the crevice. All of a sudden, a personnel called for Miss LV's attention, and then she showed something to Miss LV which she said was found in the deeper region. Miss LV was glad for what she saw. She believes that having that thing appear near the area only means that they are really getting closer to their target. She also told them that she was certain of their way and that as long as nothing happened, those supplies would be of no use after all, which made Wan Dao react with a bit of hostility. It was revealed that the red object was, in fact, a scarlet jade, a mineral closely linked to the ruby jade they were seeking. One of their team members just found it in the deeper region, so that proves that they were, indeed, getting closer to their target. After saying that, she then admitted that the decision earlier was too risky. In that case, she pledged Wan Dao that she would pay him double once the mission was over. She also glared at Wan Dao as she offered him another option, which was to end the mission right at that moment. However, he had to find his way back to the surface on his own. Wan Dao's face contorted with anger as he felt Miss LV had left him with no choice but to press on with the mission. The water on the surface of the underground stream exit remained still not until Meng Kao along with his senior Lin Chuan dramatically and suddenly emerged from it. The sudden splashing sound of the water immediately grabbed Miss LV's attention. As soon as she turned her back to look at the water, she instantly recognized his familiar face, and then she shouted his name out of excitement and gratefulness that he was safe. On the other hand, Lin Chuan immediately thanked Meng Kao for saving his life as soon as he was able to mutter a word. Meng Kao didn't say a word. Instead, he responded with a simple smile which said it all. Meanwhile, Miss LV extended a hand for Lin Chuan, saying that she was certain he would just be fine. However, Lin Chuan did not take it immediately. Instead, he told her first that the manticora fish had destroyed the entrance, so they had to find another exit in a cold tone. Nonetheless, Miss LV beamed with happiness and informed him that her team was already scouting the area, assuring that they would depart once the ruby jade vein had been located. Lin Chuan regarded her with a disappointed expression and was not able to finish his sentence. All of a sudden, the personnel came back to tell Miss LV that Professor Yi had made another new discovery which she needed to check in an instant. Excitement surged within her, and she promptly rushed to see Professor Yi, telling herself that she was, indeed, her lucky star, and leaving Lin Chuan there half submerged in the water. By then, Meng Kao urged Lin Chuan to get on the shore and replenish their energy. Within that short period of time, the two of them have already consumed a few cans of energy drinks. All of a sudden, Lin Chuan got a message on his watch from Miss LV saying that they would be departing in 30 minutes, and that they had to take the opportunity to regain some energy. Wan Dao harbored dissatisfaction with the message, but he had little choice but to comply with it since he was on a combat team and that's his life. On the other hand, he wondered why Lin Chuan, who was a senior student, and Meng Kao, an up-and-comer, would choose to jump into that mess. Lin Chuan couldn't help but chuckle at what Wan Dao had been thinking. Meanwhile, Meng Kao explained with a deep sense of seriousness on his face that his actions were driven by his desire to aid Draken in winning the war. Hearing that statement of him left Lin Chuan and Wan Dao bewildered and filled with confusion. 30 minutes later, they were all gazing at a crimson flower that had sprouted from the wall. They knew there was something behind it, so they started to use a laser-like weapon to open the wall by engraving some runes on it. After some time, the personnel announced that the rune engraving had already been completed and could be activated at any time. She then manipulated a mechanism on her arm-mounted weapon, as though switching it to a different type. The formation would be done soon, so she ordered everyone to stand back. After a few minutes, the magnetic field has been linked. Right after that, there was an explosion. It was so powerful yet so magnificent. Miss LV, elated with their accomplishments, then encouraged everyone to move forward. Meanwhile, Meng Kao asked something to Lin Chuan about the miraculous rune technology after seeing it, and about the extinction of a great civilization. But Lin Chuan had no idea. That's why Draken can only find ways to become stronger so that its people would be able to deal with all sorts of unknown disasters. On the other hand, Wan Dao was over the clouds after seeing what was in front of them at that moment. He thought it would make them rich. The rest of the group was just as mesmerized as he was after seeing it too. It turned out that the entire area was covered with an abundance of red ores, a stunning and unexpected discovery. Meng Kao, too, was mesmerized by the sighting. His gaze was locked on it for a few minutes. Miss LV suddenly stepped forward and delivered a speech, expressing how their sacrifices had been undeniably worthwhile. Then she told them to go ahead and look for the jade. According to the act, as the first to discover that vein, each of them could bring home a souvenir. All the team members couldn't resist the temptation and indulged themselves in gathering the ores they found most beautiful in the area. Meanwhile, Miss LV told Lin Chuan that they call that type of mineral vein formation the flock that worships the phoenix, which means they are not far away from the ruby jade vein. Lin Chuan foolishly stared at Meng Kao, who looked just as foolish as he was, and expressed his congratulation to him. Meanwhile, the personnel came back to call Miss LV. She also did not want to tell the matter to Miss LV. Instead, she wanted her to see it for herself. Miss LV did not even hesitate for a moment. She immediately proceeded to where the personnel asked her to go, as she ordered everyone to make way for her. Professor Yi was waiting for her. Her facial expressions were not that good, showing that it must be bad news she would tell. Indeed, it was bad news. Professor Yi thinks that they are going to lose the priority mining rights to the cave they are exploring. Miss LV wore a look of shock and worry on her face upon hearing the news. There was a plate in the area. Written on it was the name of the first mining team to discover the area. Unfortunately, based on the plate, Miss LV's team was 1 day late. Miss LV came back to her team, who surrounded the huge pile of minerals they discovered. She then asked everyone to stop what they were doing, and they were not allowed to touch anything. Lin Chuan stared at Miss LV as she was giving the order, witnessing the disappointment on her face. All of a sudden, a member of their team went up the pile of minerals and told them that he would not allow such a thing to happen. He grabbed the plate and stared at it as if he planned something bad to do with it. On the other hand, the other members were asking him to get back down at once. He suggested to Miss LV to just pretend that they never saw the plate, or worse, he suggested to her to just destroy it. However, Miss LV told him that all mining team would record the markers they leave behind as evidence. In that case, destroying the plate would do nothing. He then turned to Wan Dao and told him that they just needed to catch up to them because, after all, dead men cannot talk anyway. However, Wan Dao was not swayed by his suggestion. By then, he asked Xiao to calm down. However, Wan Dao's other men agreed to Xiao. They all think that securing the ore vein would give them the money they needed. There was something wrong with them. At that moment, as they were talking, Wan Dao seemed to be getting affected by it, too. At first, his face was steady or serious, and then suddenly he grinned and turned his face to where Miss LV was. Now he also looked foolish when he told Miss LV that his team had a point, which they just needed to kill those bastards from the global group who came first ahead of them. Lin Chuan noticed the strangeness on them, and because of that, he unleashed a fire phoenix and let it screech a deafening sound for them. Wan Dao and his members were hurt by it. Lin Chuan was aware that as they got closer and closer to the treasure, it would be more likely to affect their brain or might even take away their sanity. Wan Dao was able to go back to his senses after what Lin Chuan did. He was aware too that they could have done something unforgivable if it was not for Lin Chuan. Meanwhile, Lin Chuan was also aware that he was the one to be thanked, and so he waited for them to do so. He even forced a cough that made Wan Dao say thanks to him at last. Wan Dao then turned to Miss LV and expressed his apology for what he did and might have done. Miss LV understood that it was not his intention. She then explained to him that they often encountered such situations. The disturbance near the veins was too dangerous for Exalta above the sky stage. After that, she spoke to everyone. She told them not to worry about the matter too much because those minerals were nothing compared to the ruby jade veins. As far as she knew, the global group's mining team left last week. She then asked them if they knew what that meant. The members exchanged uncertain glances, revealing that they were all equally clueless about the situation. She continued speaking. It only meant that they caught up to their 6-day progress in just 1 day. And at that time, she proudly said that they were just 1 day ahead of them. She then suggested an idea that if they moved forward at full speed, they would be the first to discover the ruby jade ore, which is more valuable to those ordinary crystal veins. Her speech rekindled the team's morale, prompting cheers and reigniting their eagerness to continue their quest for the treasure. On the other hand, Lin Chuan smiled and told himself that he was just like his father. Meng Kao heard it, and so he asked him, "What does that mean?" Lin Chuan turned to face Meng Kao with another smile before he told him it was nothing. Miss LV told the team that they would take a half-hour break, and then after that, they would continue what they started. She is certain that they would be the first to find it. Another order echoed around the cave. They have to maintain the formation, and they have to make sure that they can see their teammate at all times. All of a sudden, Wan Dao noticed something that made him feel strange and uneasy. Right after feeling that, a megabet appeared in front of him. Luckily, he was able to stop it from attacking him using his sword as a shield. He wasted no time in issuing a stern warning for everyone to stay vigilant and ensure the safety of the non-combatants while they continued their mission. After that, Lin Chuan asked Meng Keo to take the non-combatants into the cave ahead. There were too many megabats there, and there was no time to construct a magnetic energy field. Meanwhile, Miss LV and the others were all running as fast as they could in order to get out of there quickly. On their way, Miss LV saw something that caught her attention, and so she asked the others to look at it, too. They all stopped and gazed for it. Those were mushroom, but the thing is, they were huge.
Wan Dao rushed towards Lin Chuan, and as he did, he told him that they already got rid of the bats, and then asked him if he was just all right. Lin Chuan told him he was. In response to that, Wan Dao suggested scouting the area first just to make sure that the area was completely safe for them. Meanwhile, someone noticed a human-like structure near the mushrooms. Despite its appearance, she still wondered what it was. Miss LV lowered herself near the structure. She then touched the cloth that was not covered with the mud-like thing and told them that he was a member of the global group's mining team. Upon rejoining the group, Wan Dao immediately advised everyone to exercise increased caution with the beast with petrification ability in the area. Meanwhile, Meng Keo was staring at the mushrooms and was wondering as he repeated to himself the words mushrooms and petrification. He repeated it again as if he was trying to figure something out of these words, or if in any case, the two words have something to do with each other. He thought of these, but then he stopped when the mushroom suddenly unleashed something like liquid from the holes under its umbrella. Meng Keo was wearing a piece of equipment that covered his eyes, yet the worry on his face was clear. The warning came to them so abruptly that they did not even notice who said it, but they knew they had to run. Those were gargoyle mushrooms, and their spray seems highly dangerous. However, one fellow was quite unlucky. He was not able to dodge the spray from the mushroom, and now he was almost completely covered with goo. Another man was ready to rescue him, but Meng Keo stopped him from doing so and advised him to wait for the goo to solidify first before helping him. The man wondered, and so Meng Keo explained. The goo was disgusting by sight, but rest assured because it was not toxic or corrosive. And then he pushed the man forward and told him to watch out from above. Turns out, he saw something coming down on them. They both landed safely. By then, they both looked up from the ceiling of the cave and saw a huge spider on it. They immediately recognized it by the way it looked. It was a blade jump spider. Blade jump spider has sharp silk, and the gargoyle mushroom's goo can quickly solidify into a crust stronger than a concrete. Meng Keo was right. They relied on each other. The gargoyle mushroom continued spitting sticky goo to the people under it, and they all tried their best not to be caught by it. Another warning from Lin Chuan was raised again. He told them to watch their steps as well, and he pulled Miss LV closer to him. All of a sudden, something huge and powerful landed on the ground. It was the level 2 spider nightmare beast, Acrolith spider. It was gigantic, and everyone suddenly became extra careful. Wan Dao told everyone that they would hold it off so that the others would have time to run and head forward. Behind the spider were Lin Chuan and the others, and in front of it were Wan Dao and his men ready to fight against the beast. On their way out to the gargoyle forest, they discovered that the way out was covered and blocked by a spider web. Behind the spider web were the spiders gaining on them, and at that moment they knew they were surrounded. Due to her fear and agitation, Miss LV suddenly commanded Lin Chuan to kill all of them, which Lin Chuan agreed to. He started channeling his power, bringing the phoenix out again. However, while he was trying to unleash his full potential, he struggled. He felt pain from doing so, as if something was keeping him from using his power. And finally, he lost his balance and fell on the ground. Turns out, there was a powerful inner energy disturbance inside the cave. Seeing what happened to him, Miss LV panicked and immediately ran toward Lin Chuan, who was still on the ground. He then explained that the resonance between the crystals in that vein was too strong, therefore he could not use any powerful move. Now, Miss LV looked more worried than she already was. The others were panicking as well, especially when they noticed that the spiders were getting closer to them. Knowing that Lin Chuan could not do anything for their current situation, Miss LV now thinks that she is going to die there. But Meng Keo was thinking of a plan. He recalled the things he had once done in his previous life. Maybe he could remember. And then suddenly, an image came to his mind, spiders screeching with fire. That was it. Meng Keo's eyes widened as he realized, Fire was the key. He immediately announced it to everyone. He asked them to use anything with fire to those spiders because it was what they were afraid of. Miss LV repeated the order and asked those who had flamethrowers to quickly burn the spider webs that were blocking the way and the spiders that were coming after them. Without hesitation, they fired the flamethrowers as Miss LV told them. The attack was successful, and now the way is clear. Miss LV then ordered everyone to quickly get out of the area while the spiders were nowhere to be found. However, Lin Chuan moved towards the opposite way. He wanted to join Wan Dao because they did not have someone who had fire skills. But since Lin Chuan was hurt, Meng Ko volunteered himself to help instead of his brother Lin. However, as he made his way to rejoin Wan Dao and his team, he was suddenly seized and shackled, finding himself trapped in the unyielding grip of chains. Meng Ko kept on whining as Lin Chuan asked Miss LV to help him keep an eye on him, which he referred to as a stupid kid. Miss LV agreed immediately to Lin Chuan taking the chain from him and then dragged Meng Ko, who was still whining over Lin Chuan's decision, away from where the spiders were. Meanwhile, the huge spiders inside the cave have been, continuously, spitting out their sharp spider webs. On the other hand, Xiaojia was worried because he didn't know how they would be able to get through their problem when their swords could not be pierced through their shells. Wan Dao answered him while carefully dodging the spider webs. He told him that they just needed to hold them back. They would retreat as well after the others had successfully retreated. After some time, Xiaojia informed Wan Dao that they had already retreated. Wan Dao then decided to command his team to retreat as well. They stealthily maneuvered beneath the spider's body, ensuring each movement was cautious and deliberate, so as not to alert the spider to their escape. Despite their careful efforts, the spider detected their presence, its keen instincts catching the subtle movements as they attempted to slip away unnoticed. Wan Dao looked up and noticed that the spider was, again, going to spit out its web from its bottom. He then alerted everyone to watch over their heads and warned them that they should not let themselves be caught in the web. However, it seemed like the spider web had no end as they tried to escape again and again. Xiaojia lost his confidence right away, thinking that they could not get out of that thing. In the midst of the escape, Wan Dao contemplated that continually avoiding the spider's web might deplete their energy reserves over time. Faced with no alternative, Wan Dao issued a solemn warning to his comrades, instructing them to brace for an imminent battle against the spider until their last breath. As if in eerie comprehension, the spider mirrored their preparations by firmly planting its feet on the ground as it readied itself for the impending battle. Suddenly, a flame emerged, casting a fiery glow that consumed the spider webs, freeing Wan Dao and his comrades from the chaos that might happen. It was Lian Chuan who did it. He then informed Wan Dao that LV and her team had already retreated and they should get going too. Gradually, the fire that Lin Chuan had ignited began to dwindle, its once vibrant flames slowly diminishing. Abruptly, as the flames subsided, Wan Dao discerned a peculiar form resembling a sea anemone squirming side to side, manifesting in the fading glow. Observing the mysterious entity, Lin Chuan contemplated the possibility that it was an undead creature, speculating that a Roselle nucleus might reside within the beast's body. The global mining group mining team must have killed the stone troll tarantula and transformed it into an undead that is even more difficult to kill. He then asked the guys to run while he kept it held off. Xiaojia complained about the global group mining team for them being safe while they had to deal with the monster they left. Wan Dao agreed with him as they made their way out. Lin Chuan sternly instructed them to stop talking and just get the hell out of that area. Wan Dao agreed to him, and so he urged the other guys to run faster and shake off the beast because they could not let that beast go after Miss LV and her team. Despite their best efforts, the creature remained an unyielding adversary, incessantly tracking them no matter how swiftly they attempted to escape. Lin Chuan got worried even more when he turned his head to face the beast and saw that it was too close to them, so he asked them to really run faster this time. The four men were all thinking the same in the midst of chaos. They were mad for what the global group had done, or rather what they had not done, which is killing all the mushrooms and beasts inside the area. Instead of doing that, they even left a super undead behind for them to deal with. They couldn't shake the suspicion that their every effort was a deliberate scheme to eliminate competition rather than a mere escape from danger. All of a sudden, the vine-like thing from the spider started circling around small red stones. And then eventually, the spider beast shoots the stones towards the men. Wang Dao suggested burning the mushroom, but Lin Chuan countered that such an action could lead to a loss of oxygen, presenting a new set of challenges in their already perilous situation. The red crystal ores were continuously being shot toward them and through the mushrooms. When Lin Chuan took a look at the mushrooms, he realized that the mushrooms had also evolved in that cave filled with crystal ores, seeing how deformed they were. After passing the mushrooms, Lin Chuan urged them all to continue running fast since they had nothing to do in that situation. Oddly, Meng Keo was also running with them. One moment, Lin Chuan took a look at his back, as if he saw something from his peripheral view. When he completely turned his head to face what was coming to him, he found himself bleeding already on his shoulder because of a vine that struck him. Wang Dao also looked back and immediately got worried when he saw that Lin Chuan was injured. Despite that, he still told him he was fine, and then advised him to just keep on running. However, Wang Dao knew that at that rate, they would not be able to get rid of the spider in time. Witnessing the unfolding events, he implored the Razor Squad to halt their escape and draw their swords, realizing that a confrontation with the pursuing threat was now inevitable. In a decisive moment, he rallied everyone to his side, and then ordered them to do everything to make the roof of the cave collapse and bury the creature alive. Everyone agreed. He then asked Lin Chuan to fling back the acrolith spider into the mushroom forest, but the thing is, he only had 5 seconds to get out when they blew the roof. Lin Chuan agreed to Wang Dao's suggestion, saying that he could do what he wanted him to do in return. He asked them to do what they needed to do as he locked the spider in his chains. In that instant, Wang Dao harbored a confident belief that the plan would be successful. With assurance in his actions, he commenced blowing the roof as planned. After doing what would make the roof collapse, he immediately instructed Lin Chuan to hurry and get out of the mushroom forest right away as the roof started collapsing. Lin Chuan was still holding the acrolith spider to make sure that it would not get away from his death this time, but the debris was already falling from the roof and Lin Chuan had so little time. Huge rocks also started falling from the roof, covering the area and burying what cave along with the things inside it. Wang Dao shouted to call Lin Chuan. No, there was no response. What was left after that was a pile of rocks that had once served as the roof of the cave. As worries dissipated, Lin Chuan ascended from the apex with graceful fire wings, a spectacular sight that banished uncertainty and brought a newfound sense of hope. In the sudden surge of excitement, Wang Dao hurried towards Lin Chuan, eager to lend a hand and assist him in getting up. He then apologized for what might have happened to Lin Chuan because of his plan, but Lin Chuan told him it was fine and they just needed to get away from that place first. He was certain that they would be safe as soon as they got out of the beast's sensory zone. At that moment, he also told Wang Dao that they should catch up with the others quickly. Meanwhile, a member of their team wrapped his hand around Meng Keo as he thanked him for saving their lives. However, Meng Keo told him that it was all because of Lin Chuan and not him. All of a sudden, Meng Keo finally figured out that Lin Chuan was a circa heroic citizen. On the other hand, a message popped out saying that the Razor Squad members survived, thanks to your advice. Meng Keo knew it. Lin Chuan is special. He is a circa heroic citizen just like Mr. Sun and Ning Shuo. For the time being, Miss LV suggested her people take a break there and wait for Lin Chuan and the others to catch up. Everything appeared to be in order, but suddenly she caught the ominous sound of rumbling nearby that made her feel a bit of uncertainty. Professor Yi noticed that something was bothering Miss LV, so she asked her what was wrong. Finally, Lin Chuan arrived at their location, Wang Dao by his side, providing assistance because he was injured from holding off the beasts. Miss LV immediately rushed towards him asking him what happened to his arm. Lin Chuan explained everything and told her that he was embarrassed by it. Following their ordeal, Miss LV expressed gratitude that they all made it out alive. She then emphasized that their top priority was to locate the ruby jade veins, which must be just close. As a concluding statement, she requested everyone to take a 2-hour rest, emphasizing that after the brief respite, they would continue with unwavering dedication to their mission. Some of them were gathering around a stone, but it was glowing like it was on fire. Subsequently, someone said that they had lost quite a lot of supplies and devices, so they would have to make use of those fire elemental crystals to keep warm. On the other hand, Meng Keo thinks that it is a perfect time to sneak and find a secluded place to start healing himself since everyone is taking their rest now. However, while he was trying to sneak out of that place, Miss LV suddenly appeared behind him and called him asking him to wait up. Menkeo stopped sneaking and asked Miss LV what was the matter. Miss LV did not answer him yet. She just asked him to walk with her and talk by that side. The two of them eventually went somewhere they could talk without anyone hearing them. They sat next to each other while Miss LV was trying to find a way to start speaking. At last, Miss LV brought out a small, gorgeous-looking dagger and asked Menkeo what he thought about it. Menkeo was struck with awe upon laying eyes on the magnificent dagger. It was familiar to him, and so he tried to recall what it was called. It was the Crimson Inferno. The third last piece of work by the rune master Shizunmo before he retired. He still could not really believe how amazing the dagger was. The blade of the dagger is made from the fang of the Crimson Inferno Tiger, a level 6 infernal beast. A single piercing into its target's body is sufficient to destroy its life magnetic field and drain its life force. The target's life force will be absorbed into the body of the person who wields the dagger. Finally, Miss LV continued speaking, saying that she heard Lin Chuan give him a set of chain swords and even taught him how to wield them. Miss LV stared at the right sword, which Menkeo placed just near where they sat, and said that it was still usable. She then explained that she was giving him the Crimson Inferno to replace the piece of scrap metal on his left hand, while smirking a bit. Awkwardness settled over Menkeo as he observed Miss LV's actions. He couldn't shake the feeling that she might be attempting to sway him by giving him such a precious item. Reluctantly, Menkeo accepted the gift for the sake of the 100 million citizens in Draken City. He then thanked Miss LV for giving him such an item. After discussing about the dagger, Miss LV asked Menkeo if he thought she was a heartless person who would do anything to achieve her goals given the sacrifices that it would cost them. Menkeo paused for a moment, contemplating the best way to respond to her question as he stared at Miss LV. Miss LV then clarified that she would absolutely love to devise a safer strategy. However, time was a luxury they couldn't afford at the moment. Time was not on their side. Every minute or even second is important, because the longer they stay there, the greater the number of soldiers who might die due to the extreme weather raging above the ground. Not just that, because in every second that passes, a combat vehicle is incapacitated by the energy veins resonance. In a dramatic turn, she conveyed to Menkeo the urgency of her need, emphasizing that she truly required his assistance. Menkeo felt a bit foolish, witnessing the seriousness in Miss LV's demeanor. Their motives are the same, but he thinks he should be seeking Lin Chuan's help instead of his. Menkeo wanted to explain why he thought that, but Miss LV interrupted him before he even finished his sentence. Miss LV told Menkeo that he was right, that she and Lin Chuan were close to each other as she looked closely at Menkeo. And then she looked down looking so sad as she told him that maybe they were not that close anymore. Miss LV reminisced about the way things used to be with her eyes, reflecting the sadness she felt as she recalled.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Leave a comment for the next part, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.